This is live pictures, and up at the top it is raining steadily. The position at the moment is we have two men up the front and then a chasing group which seems to be gradually being pegged back by the main peloton. The two men at the front with 74.5 kilometers to go are Matteo Rabottini riding by himself and Guillaume Bonnefoy just a little bit behind him. And then there is a group of chasing riders who we shall go through in just a second. We are all set for an epic day here on stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia, because it is split to pieces already. 73.8 kilometers to go. One man riding by himself at the moment, Matteo Rabottini. Somewhere behind him is Guillaume Bonnefoy. We know not where at the moment. Then there is a chasing group, Diego Ulissi of Lampre, and we understand that also Adriano Malori getting up to the chasing group as well. Emanuele Sella of Androni. Yevgeny Petrov, winner last year in conditions pretty much like 2 years ago, in conditions pretty much like this, but nowhere near as mountainous, riding for Astana. Marco Pinotti of BMC. Stefano Pirazzi of Colnago. Ahmed Cheruka, the rider from Euskaltel. Alberto Losada in Katusha's colours. Matteo Bruggen of Movistar tried a little bit of a dig yesterday and clearly showing that he's got some form. Juan Antonio Flecha of Sky and Matteo Carrara of Vacansoleil. And at the moment, Sean, it looks to me as though Damiano Cunego is pushing on as well, and he has two men up the road, which is something probably that they already planned.
Well, this race is just going crazy. We see on this climb they just started attacking, and the group of Bruggen here, as we can see, 10 men chasing. Our leader out on the road, Rabottini, and Bonnefoy, he's in between, of course, and we can see the advantage there, 5:27. So the bunch is closing down. They had a bit of more of an advantage, the 10-man breakaway, but it's caused problems a lot on this climb of Valcava. It's just split everywhere, and the conditions, of course, you know, it's really treacherous conditions here. We see riders with big gloves on, so it is very cold, and I think that's also having an effect. But I think that the racing is going, they're just racing full on this climb right from the beginning of the bottom of the climb, and it's caused major problems for everybody. And there's riders scattered everywhere on this climb. There'll be a lot of injuries today, I would think, because the road surfaces are horrible for most of the last 100 kilometers. They're really very bad indeed. And look at the weather. This is the chasing group as it is now. Marco Pinotti of BMC leading them in the red there. Just behind in the blue and white is Matias Carrara of the Vacansoleil team. Then Alberto Losada in the red and white of Katusha, followed, it looks like, by Bruggen, who's a very decent descender from Movistar. Look out for the green helmet there, and there are real problems here for the motorcycles and for the bicycles themselves, because it's a filthy foul day on this 14-kilometer descent of the Valuca di Valcava down towards the bottom of the valley, and there's not a single piece of flat ground between here and the finish in Piano delle Resinelli today, Sean. It's a very nasty day. Well, this final 83 kilometres, from the moment you get over Valcava, it started after 70 kilometres, it just starts to go up and down all day, and the up is really difficult, but the down is going to be majorly difficult as well. As you can see, the riders here, the conditions very bad for the moment. It might get better as we go on, and hopefully it does, because like we have a lot of climbs here, not all categorised, but we have 5 climbs to get over and a lot of descent. And this one, the Valcava, it's 14k downhill, and then we have the penultimate climb, which is a second category one, that's 12k downhill as well, and that could be the decisive one, because the final climb today is only 7.8 kilometres. We could see something happening on that penultimate climb where the attack on the descent, but this final 83 kilometres are really difficult, and the conditions are going to make it more difficult again. Winter gloves for Matteo Rabottini. It's really very nasty indeed, and it went hard right from the word go, Sean, today. Everybody pushing hard, and as soon as they got to Lecco, which is where you saw Dan Lloyd doing the preview from and going up the last climb of the day, big loop
around very nasty roads, and the weather's been bad. It just flew to pieces. Matteo Albertini and Guillaume Bonnefoy went off. Interestingly, they took the first 2 places on the intermediate sprint, and Mark Cavendish went and got the last available points there. It's good to see that he's actively defending that jersey, Sean.
Yes, he's going for the points, and he has been doing that in the past couple of days, and that was, you know, around the 60-kilometre mark into the stage. So he seems to be keeping control of the points jersey and holding on to that jersey. And the racing was very active again, and of course we had that 70 kilometres pretty much flat, and then we start into this real difficult final of over 80 kilometres, and what a final it's going to be, because the conditions, as we can see, they're not getting better for the moment, so it's not looking good for everybody. If it continues like this, we will see, I think, problems in the end, because the cold conditions, the wet conditions, it will hit people when you get to the end of this stage, and it can have a major effect on some of the big favourites.
Okay, it's going to be all action, so let's do the housekeeping while we can. Is this Pinotti with problems by the look of it? Marco Pinotti needing a front wheel by the look of it. And that is Mallory, is it not? Adriano Mallory is coming across towards this group. And we've got, or maybe Diego Alisi. Marco Pinotti was leading them down the descent. Clearly has a problem with the front wheel, needs to get that changed. Housekeeping while we can. Out today, abandoning Giovanni Visconti. Graham Brown also abandoning to Visconti. The leader of the Movistar team, Graham Brown, sprinter for Rabobank, of course, out today. Jeremy Hunt did not start this morning. He's gone home to witness the birth of his baby, which is fantastic. He's going to become a dad, so congratulations to Jeremy. No wonder he was doing so much work on the front. Had to go home at some point. Frank Schleck abandoning today, citing uncomfortableness with the shoulder, but he is out today. Oh, no, that's why then. Down he goes. Pinotti, and we did say it's a very dangerous descent this, Sean. It's a dangerous day. Look at the state of the roads here. They're going to be greasy, nasty, broken up, and very slippery.
Yes, and we could see Pinotti, he was pushing on there for quite a bit. We see shots just a little bit earlier, and he seemed to be, pushing on a lot, and you're going to pay for it if there's a little bit of, more of a greasy corner here. Down you go, and Pinotti, not surprised that Ryder's going down. In the peloton we can see here at the moment, it looks like Liquigas are leading down, and we know the reason for that, just to keep control in the front of the bunch and keep Basso out of danger.
6 minutes back to the pink jersey from this man Rabottini. 5:43 back to the chase group, so 20 seconds roughly between the chase and peloton. Receiving a front wheel. Stopped at the side of the road, just bouncing up and down on that front to make sure it's okay. The back's okay. Look at the state of the roads. Absolutely horrible. Well, yesterday was a fantastic day's racing, and Sean, will Ryder Hesjedal have any problems today? He's an ex-mountain biker. Conditions like this shouldn't particularly bother him. He also lives in British Columbia as well, or comes from British Columbia. So imagine there's a fair amount of rain out there. So is he likely to be okay today? Clearly Liquigas are controlling it once again.
Yes, well, I think for Ryder Hesjedal in the bunch, I don't think they have too much problems descending, and that he'll not be too nervous coming from mountain biking. But again, in the wet conditions, it's always dangerous. We did see going down there, Pinotti was leading down, and you try and follow him, but you have a feeling that Ryder maybe is pushing a little bit too much to the limit, and down he goes. So you have to allow the gap. But a rider can come by you very quickly and maybe panic and break and take you out, and take a number of riders out. So that's the risk in the wet conditions. The cold is the other thing, and Hesjedal, we see that he is very lean. He's really trimmed down, and sometimes that can get you in a race. You can be okay, normally you don't suffer, but for some reason or another, when you're in real good shape, you start getting cold in a stage where you're out there for 4 or 5 hours.
This is the chasing group after Rabottini. They're trying to stay ahead of the main peloton. And look, 2 riders here from Lampre, and Cunego seemed to be trying to get out of the main peloton as well. Bearing in mind there's only about 20 seconds between the chase group and the peloton itself. Here's Guillaume Bonnefoy, who was out with Matteo Rabottini, so the chase group has caught him. There's still a big gap between these guys and Matteo Rabottini, and it's Carrara here of Vacansoleil who's doing the sort of marshalling job He's making sure that people are trying to stay together. He was going back along the line saying, come on, all pull together. We can't attack at this point. We've got to all work together, keep working. He's having a chat there, or something, not a remonstration, but he's doing the marshalling, the captaining job there, and Bruyneel responding.
Giving out.
Well, giving out maybe, whatever he's saying.
Yes.
Keep together.
And Carrara, of course, Matteo Carrara from Vacansoleil, he wants to push on here because he is a rider that can ride well in the bad conditions. I think he supports that quite well. A stage like today, he's capable of doing it as well. And Bruyneel have a lot to gain here because he's 7:16, but again, the bunch is really close and there seems to be a lot of action back in the main bunch. They haven't been able to pull out an advantage. The other one was Pinotti. He was the best in that group of 10 chasers after the two we had out in front. Bonnefour now, of course, has been pulled back by what's left of this breakaway, but Pinotti was at 4:37, so he was the best in general classification.
Yep.
And we all know why he was really keen on pushing it on and pushed it a bit too much on the descent.
Just to fill you in, the next best placed man on classification in this group is Diego Ulissi at 5 minutes and 50 seconds. Then Marcio Bruyneel at 7 minutes and 14. The others are way outside of any problems. But yeah, Marco Pinotti was at 4 minutes and 37 seconds. Ulissi being up here and Mallory together, Sean. That's interesting. What's your feeling on this? And here comes Cunego, look.
Well, I think they want to...
That was it. That's obviously the thing.
Yes, through the feed station, grabs his musette and on he goes and really wants to push it on here. And they know that the bunch behind, it's really split up, and the bunch of big favourites, there's not a lot of riders left in it because we could see on the descent there, it's really blown to pieces on this first climb of the day, the Valcavio de Valcava, so it's causing problems. And Cunego, we see, just wants to push on here, and when you have two other teammates around with you, well, then it's time to kick on and try and get up to this group and make it a much stronger group up front. As we can see, Liquigas still riding on the front of the bunch.
I think that they really want to try and put Liquigas under pressure, make Basso feel a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe they think with Ryder Hesjedal looking so strong by himself, not necessarily with many men around him, in the finish yesterday, or certainly in general when it's got to quite steep sections, maybe they want to put him under a little bit of pressure too today. They've clearly targeted something. They've sat down last night. What do you think the talk around the table was last night, Sean?
Well, I think when you have a team with riders, as we have from the likes of Lamprey, well, you know, you have to try something, and the occasions are when you get a real bad day, everything is, you know, scattered all over the road, the peloton is really, you know, broken up, and that's the moment to try and do it. And if you have the riders, as we see from Lamprey, Ulissi, Mallory, Cunego, so, you know, have a go and give Scarponi. He has nothing to do, only just follow the big favourites and leave him just sit back and watch the other favourites, Rodriguez, Tiralongo, Basso, of course. And it looks like that is again Liquigas are just controlling the bunch here for Basso, and Hesjedal, he's just got to follow and stay with the other big favourites, because we see Liquigas are going to, you know, continue on controlling as they have been doing for many days.
There's a lot of talk here from Netflix. Amador as well has come across. Andre Amador, winner of yesterday's stage, has come across to the group as well, but the gap doesn't seem to be going out any further, Sean. It seems to be stable at about 20 odd seconds at the moment between the main peloton and the group of riders just ahead, including the three riders from Lamprey. And still Rabottini is out by himself. Look, we haven't talked about Rabottini, of course, yet. Looks good for Rabottini at the moment, if he's got the legs.
Yes, it looks good for him, but again, it's a very difficult final, and there's a lot of real difficult road to be negotiated, a lot of difficult climbs, 65 k's to go, it's a long ways, and you know, the advantage, I think it could come down really quickly, because he's putting a huge effort out on his own there, you know, from this early part of the stage over all the climbs of the day. So he started the Valcava out in front, and I reckon he could pay for that dearly in the final climbs of the day, especially on the final one, if not the penultimate climb. And it'll depend now how they organise themselves. As you see, this group up front is growing all the time.
Going through the feed zone. The rain clearly clearing up just a little bit, because a lot of riders getting rid of their rain jackets at this point, and there doesn't seem to be much panic Somebody's going to get come out into their field of their allotment and find a couple of rain jackets in there when they go up next.
And we can see on the front of the bunch, Liquid Gas seems to have knocked it off a bit and slowed down quite a lot.
Absolutely. Yep, I think they've realised that they are going to be spent if they're not careful. Diego Ulissi sets the pace on this group with Damiano Cunego, André Amador. Gosh, Ulissi and Amador having a spat now. Amador's a bit pugnacious, isn't he? One has to say. Have backed off the pace here in the main peloton, and Joaquim Rodríguez, team of Katusha, just trying to up a little bit, getting to the side of the road there. Clearly only to take a natural break. This is the chasing group, chasing Rabottini by himself, and André Amador here once again at the front. The Costa Rican, having taken the victory yesterday, clearly in strong form. Marzio Bruzigin here, also active yesterday. Diego Ulissi sitting just behind him. Then Matteo Carrara, Italian riding for Vacansoleil with the yellow stripes on the peak of his casquette there. Ahmed Cheruka of Euskaltel in the all-orange. Also in the group, Emanuele Sella for Androni in the white, Petrov in the turquoise colour of Astana. Pinotti is no longer in there, having crashed. Losada of Katusha. And Juan Antonio Fletcher was in there. Haven't seen him recently. He's not so much towards the front. You can see the pink jersey wearer of Ryder Hesjedal today. You'll notice he's got a grey coloured rain jacket on with the Cervelo crest on the back. But look out for the pink helmet. That's the only way you'll tell him easily if we get a close shot. Ryder Hesjedal, apart from the fact he's a big, tall, rangy rider, so bounces around a little bit on the bike. Rabottini's gap between himself and the chase group is beginning to come down, Sean. He's lost about 10 seconds or so, and as you speculated, possibly he's going to leave it all on the road today.
Well, I think much too early out on your own, it's a real difficult one. If you had 4 or 5 riders here share the pace setting, well, then you have a chance with the advantage that Rabottini had on the climb of Valcava, but alone it's going to be a long road and a hard road, and the hard conditions today with the wet, it's so energy sapping here. And we've seen the breakaway. You have Lamprey, for example, you have Movistar, they have 2 riders from each team. As we can see here, he's been shown the menu for the rest of the day, which doesn't look good.
You're here, he's saying.
It's all descent from here.
It's all downhill. Don't worry about it. You'll be fine.
But again, it will depend now what happened back in the bunch. I think if some of the teams start riding and take up the pace on the front of the bunch and start chasing down this group, big group of chasers that's on the road behind Rabottini, that's the chance for Rabottini to go on. But otherwise, I think they will keep on riding, and if they feel that there's nobody organised behind the other teams who have missed it with favourites for this overall classification, if they don't pull together and start riding, well, we could see this breakaway which is growing out to be quite a big chasing group. They could start pulling away from the bunch, but also easing into Rabottini's time.
The next big climb coming up is the Forcella de Bura. They are at Babeno now, or at least Rabottini is at Babeno. He'll run down to Brembilla and then up the Forcella de Bura. The Colmidisi di San Pietro is the penultimate climb of the day, and they finish at Piani dei Resinelli. Both second category climbs, the San Pietro and Resinelli, but they're both very hard, Sean. We're in sort of Tour of Lombardy area now. This is historically where the Tour of Lombardy has been run. They finish at Lecco now, of course. They did last year, but it's tough riding around here. Yes,
well, it is, as we've seen on our screens, and when you get the bad weather conditions, it makes it so difficult. But it's still very difficult terrain, and the Valcava, of course, the one which they've done in my time when I was doing Lombardy. I remember we had to climb the Valcava a number of years. So this is Tour of Lombardy terrain. We're in the heart of it here.
Gustav Erkelarsson is also in this group now. 9 minutes and 38 seconds now back to the pink jersey group. And it looks as if Ryder Hesjedal's team of Garmin, they're going to have to make some decisions here. Carrara and Larsson in the front group. Fletcher was dropped, and they're talking to each other at the front here, Sean. They've been forced to take up the pacemaking because Liquigas have said, hey, you've got the pink jersey, guys. We're not doing it again. And for the first time in the last couple of days, we've seen them knocking off a little bit, forcing other teams to come through.
Well, I think Liquigas probably in a little bit of difficulty on making the decision. Well, if we keep on riding here, as they have been for quite a while on this climb of Valcava, which was, at the summit we had 83 kilometres to go. So they've been riding for a long time, and with a difficult day, they've probably decided, well, if we keep on riding here, everybody will just sit and leave Basso and Liquigas control the race. And now we've seen they've knocked it off. So Hesjedal has to, get some of his teammates on the front, and we've seen two of them just come there at the moment. So they are going to continue on making the pace, and it'll be interesting to see who will join. Will Liquigas push two men in there? And the other teams as well that has not really represented up here, who have interest in the general classification. But when you see Movistar, they have got somebody up there in Bruchingen. Lampre are covered, they have somebody there. So yeah, there's teams who will just sit in the bunch and wait and leave the other teams take up the chasing and do all the work.
Rabottini is in an excellent position, and finally maybe the aggressive nature of this team right the way through the Giro d'Italia, Sean, may pay off if he can keep it up at the moment, because he's not losing too much time on the chasing group. It's the peloton that's losing time at the moment, and at 9:42 they've lost a tremendous amount of time. Garmin Barracuda, and they're going to have to start riding really hard on the front. Oh, motorcycle, get out of the way, come on, sort it out. I don't think that has anything about towing, that's just about the fact they're in the flipping way. 59 kilometres to go. 5:15 back to the chasing group. The men in the chasing group who are a problem, Sean, are Damiano Cunego, obviously at 2 minutes and 43 started this morning. Diego Ulissi, 5:50 back. Marcio Bruyggen, who we know has a track record, as well as, of course, Cunego as a former winner of the Giro d'Italia, 7:16.
Yes, all danger men, and they're the men you cannot allow to take a number of minutes today. But again, we see on the front of the bunch, with a little bit of a panic there with the motorbike, the Garmin Barracuda riders, but also Liquigas are starting to get involved. So I'm not surprised that it started to grow out drastically. 9:48, but they did knock it off for a long time. We could see there was a discussion going on again, and Liquigas just stopped totally and said that, well, we're not just controlling on our own, but now they're starting to work again, as we can see. Rambotti just sliding a little bit here at the moment, but again, this group of chasers has grown to be quite a strong group, and it'll take a little bit of time to see how well they organise themselves, how quickly they will start eating into the advantage of Rabottini.
Yep.
5:10 at the moment.
Yeah, 5:10 is a fairly big whack. The Emanuele Sella in the blue arm warmers there. Looks across towards Diego Ulissi. Trying to get some food down his neck while he can, as is Gustav Erkelarsson. He has teammate and team leader Matteo Carrara here. And Cunego calling for the car. We'll keep going, everybody trying to get some food in while they can here. It's important to keep eating and drinking. It's amazing you dehydrate as much as you need food in a day like this. It can be very difficult to plan your eating, especially when it's up and down all the time. Low cloud, mist, fog, rain. Oh, it's a nasty day. Stage 15 on the Giro d'Italia with 55.5 kilometres to go. The chasing group after Matteo Rabottini is 5 minutes and 13 seconds down. Oh, well, nearly 10 minutes between Rabottini and the main peloton. But forget that. it's the gap between the chase group and the peloton that is important, because the chase group has in it Damiano Cunego at 2 minutes and 43 seconds. And there's a lot of chat going on between the Italians in this breakaway, this chase group. This man here, Matteo Carrara, very, very keen to keep it moving. And there's been a lot of discussion between himself and the man behind him in the green helmet, Marzio Bruggen, and Damiano Cunego in third spot in this line here. Lots of talk between the Italians to keep it rolling along. And Carrara very keen to go backwards and forwards in the line and push it on. More gap being put between Cunego and Ryder Hesjedal here. 1 minute and 50 seconds now is the gap. The Canadian showed them a clean pair of heels yesterday on the finish and took out another 20-odd seconds over the Joaquim Rodríguez group. And a lot of people missing out yesterday, and Hesjedal throwing down the gauntlet. And I think some of these guys here today, Sean, have said, well, if you want to play like that, we're going to have a go as well.
Well, I think they see yesterday that Hesjedal is a candidate for a place in the general classification, if not to win here. So his performance yesterday to attack all the big favourites when it was going at a real fast pace, because we see Sylvester Smith, he was really pushing on the pace, and Hesjedal attacked just after that when there was a little bit of a slowdown, and a lot of riders trying to get across to him. We see Joaquim Rodríguez trying to make it and nobody able to close the gap, and I think they said, oh, this guy is better than we thought maybe in the big mountain stages. And when you get in a situation like that, well, they're going to say, well, you have to ride as well with your team, because you are definitely a candidate for a place on the podium, if not to win this race.
At the moment, it's taken them a little bit of time to organise themselves as well, Sean. 5:34 now, the gap between Rabottini, so at 9:34, the gap between Rabottini and the main peloton. But forget that's the gap between the chasing group with Cunego in it at 5:17 there, and the main peloton.
And we've just seen Pinotti there, who was chasing between, and surprising that he made the mistake on the descent, because he was pushing on, and you know, he's a rider with vast experience. And when you consider the situation, the climb, it wasn't just downhill and flat to the finish. It's a long ways off that. So with 4 climbs still to go, and it was 70 kilometres to go, and he was really pushing it big time. Now he finds himself trying to chase back on here, where he should be in this group pretty comfortable. I'm surprised that Marco Pinotti made that bit of mistake on the descent, that he pushed it a little bit too much to the limit.
53 kilometres, or nearly 54 kilometres still to go, and Rabottini is out by himself. He's got a gap of 5 minutes and 16 seconds. We'll have to see if that's enough. What is Matteo Carrara playing at, I wonder, because he's doing all the marshalling here behind for everybody. Is he trying to drive it on to catch this man and go for the stage victory, or is there something else afoot? Because he's a long way back. It must be something, it must be a plan. 1 hour 38:09. He's back. He's an awful long way. He's got Gustave Eric Larchon with him at 5 minutes and 26. That's another man who may be a threat, of course. Vacansoleil, fairly slim pickings, despite the fact they've been out in the break every day, Sean. Maybe today that's exactly what they're thinking, that we can hunt down Rabottini and go for a stage win, because clearly Larchon's climbing quite well. He finished well up yesterday. And Matteo Carrara is also a very good climber.
Yes, and Carrara is a long ways down the general classification, as you mentioned. I think he's been maybe preparing to get into breaks on these style of stages, and the weather conditions, I think, he support that quite well. So he's real keen on pushing on here, and I would say, he just wants to keep it organised here, get everybody to contribute to the pace setting on the front, and try and hold the advantage over the bunch and pull out from the bunch, and also eat into the lower man out in the breakaway, eat into his time advantage, and get into a position for a stage victory.
There's a lot of marshalling going on by Carrara. He's clearly the organiser here. But they're still losing time on Rabottini at the moment. 5:21 Rabottini is at. Interesting. 4 minutes and 20 seconds basically is the gap between the chasing group and the peloton. So we see somebody getting a shove. Here is Marco Pinotti. This is a little bit earlier in the day. This is when Pinotti was still with the chasing group here. Just getting a copy of Gazzetta to shove down the front of the jersey. So clearly he's just preparing, so he's really on it today, Matteo Carrara. Everything about him, all his body language, everything he's doing speaks about this is the day for me.
Or maybe he wanted to see the classification.
Maybe he did, maybe he didn't know where he was.
Yeah, or the other riders, how they were in general classification to make a plan of tactic.
He wants to cut out the little bit of the profile, stick it to his handlebars. That's what he wants. He'll be borrowing a pair of scissors next. Fine ride by this man so far. Rabottini, third-year professional, and certainly having a good Giro d'Italia along with the rest of his team. Won a stage last year in the Tour of Turkey. Pinotti's all by himself now, having fallen earlier. Another one of the Italians in the chasing group, but he was really pushing it on. The roads are not very nice, some of the descents, and he just lost it. And now stuck in no man's land between the chase group and the main peloton. There's some good riders in here for the bad conditions. Sella doesn't mind them. Bruyneel we know doesn't mind them. Carrera's pretty good. Releases seems to be a pretty tough cookie. Cheruka, well, gets used to it. He's a Basque. 950 back. The gap is growing between the chase group and the peloton. This is interesting. Just look at the gap between the chase group and the peloton. It's approaching the 5-minute mark. It's not that far away. And there's Marco Pinotti, and he's not that far away from regaining the chase group, Sean. So riding hard, but clearly there's sort of a bit of a holding station going on between everybody at the moment. The peloton really haven't put the hammer down to close the gap. The chase group aren't closing the gap on Rabottini, who's riding for himself. It would suggest that rather than everybody being flat out at the moment, they're all just riding at tempo.
Well, I think first of all, back in the bunch, there was a little bit of time to get organised, and still they're just continue on rolling there on the front of the bunch, but not a lot of riders getting involved for the moment. The breakaway, which is chasing our lone man out in front, 11 men, there seem to be just a lot of discussion going on, and we see Carrara there having a discussion with a number of riders and saying, we have to get moving here, and you can see they're not pushing on anything near what they're capable of doing. So a lot of people, I think, are backing off and just concerned about this final, playing the waiting game, and you get into that situation. We remember, was it 2 or 3 days ago with Sandy Cassar when he got into the breakaway, he was interested in the general classification. Other ones are interested in the stage victory because they're totally out of the classification, and that's what's happening here in this breakaway for the moment. And there is teams here with 2 riders. You have 3 teams with 2 riders represented in the breakaway, so I think they're also being looked at, and the other riders who are alone in the breakaway are expecting the teams who have 2 men in the breakaway, expecting them to do the majority of the work.
Those teams being Vacansoleil and Lampre have 2 men in the breakaway as well. And Pinotti's almost upon them again, Sean, and just illustrating your point, they're not really going hammer and tongs at it yet, but with 50 kilometres to go, people are going to have to start riding at this point. I mean, it's not very, very far away that the peloton certainly will have to start doing something, and the chase group will start thinking, well, I hope Rabottini's energies are failing. We're not very, in terms of kilometres, we're not very far away from that point.
No, not very far, because when you look at 5 minutes, 50k, but again, it's a real killer of a 50k for the lone man out in front, and I would be concerned about him, able to hold this rhythm he's going at, and also this chasing group. I think there's a lot of power left in some of those riders, and they're just hanging about and waiting, and I'd not be surprised when we get to that penultimate climb of the day. At the 144 kilometre mark, it's the summit, and it is a difficult climb. It's 9.8 kilometre of a climb, and then there's a long descent of 12k, and then we attack the final the final climb to the finish. So I think in the chasing group we will see fireworks coming out of that. Back in the bunch as well, will we see some of the big favourites having to start to stir it up, because they are also almost 10 minutes down.
Yeah, I think you're right, Sean. It's going to be this group is going to stay together or try and keep working together, and with being exhorted constantly by Matteo Carrara to keep working until they get to the penultimate climb of the day, the San Pietro climb, a second category climb, but it's a long one, just under 10 kilometres, not as long as yesterday's, but steep, nasty, angled climbs, not nice at all. And the weather, not good for some people. Pinotti has almost made contact here, Sean. Question is, how much will he have left now? How sore is he from coming a cropper? We'll just have to sit in there. I think he'll sit at the back for a bit and wait his turn, get a little bit of rest, a respite, and then get going again. How much do you need riders like Matteo Carrara just marshalling things, not even carefully? I mean, he's really pushing them on, shouting at them, yelling at them, pushing them into the line, making sure they do things. Do you get fed up with a rider like that?
Well, you're not left sit on the rear and get carried along. And if you allow 2 riders, 3 riders to sit on the rear, and you don't really get onto them and really give out to them, and we can see Matteo Carrara is just shouting at some of the riders to keep it going here, and I don't think there's anybody being allowed to sit on the rear of the group, and that's what you need to do, because keep everybody working, keep everybody rolling through. But again, it's difficult to make him go that little bit faster. They'll just come to the front, they'll barely take the front of the group and just move over. They're not really contributing a huge amount, and it's that when some of the riders get really nervous then, and I think that was the problem there. There was a lot of riders coming through, but really not pushing it on enough for his liking.
Yes, as you say, Vacansoleil and Movistar both have 2 riders in there, as does Lampre. And of course, Matteo Carrara knows that Lampre have a lot to gain from this, because their best placed man in the group is Damiano Cunego. He's now virtual leader on the road. They're going to force them to keep doing the work. The people who have come through and do a turn now and again, Sean, just to show favour, to show that they're still up there, still capable of doing something, is the man with his arm up in the air now, Ahmed Cheruko. We've seen him do a couple of turns. We've seen Emanuele Sella do a couple of turns. Stefano Perazzi, we haven't seen him on the front at all.
Well, he's probably saying that I'm waiting for Pozzoviva. He's going to come up later, so I'm just holding on here, guys, on the rear.
Can he use that excuse? Will he be able to get away with it? I'm not sure with Matteo Carrara. He's fairly verbal.
Well, I'm surprised that they're sort of allowing him. We didn't see him, but again, it's difficult because we're just seeing the group of chasers. Then we're seeing a leader on the road, and then we're hopping back to the front of the bunch, the rear end of the peloton, and difficult to see if Perazzi is after doing a turn at all on the front.
I don't think, I haven't seen anything of him at all, but as you say, maybe when the camera keeps cutting back. But there's a big enough group to think that you might catch him at one point on the front. Let's just run you through who's in possession of what jerseys this morning. Ryder Hesjedal has had a 9-second lead over Joaquim Rodríguez, 41 seconds over Paolo Tiralongo. Mark Cavendish holding the points jersey, and push off for Marco Pinotti. More problems for Pinotti. He's not doing particularly well at the moment. Cavendish 106 points this morning over Joaquim Rodríguez on 64, and Pozzovivo on 53. Mikel Golash was still in the mountains classification jersey. Gianbattista second, and Rubiano in 3rd spot. And Rigoberto Urán takes over the best young riders jersey, so look out for him in white today. And Sergio Henio is at 20 seconds back on that. Caruso is now at 1:37. Could be all change again today, though. Oh, this must take an awful lot out of Marco Pinotti, Sean. Every time he starts getting back, something happens.
Yes, he made a quick stop there as he was making it into this group of chasers. I thought for a moment he was changing bike, but it looks like he still has got the bike with the frame number on it, so I don't know what was the reason, but he certainly seemed to stop for some mechanical problem. And when he was chasing there on his own, of course, you just continue on. If it's not anything major, you try and get close to the group, get into the cavalcade of cars, which is a small number, but still he had a real quick stop there and was back on the bike and in the cars immediately behind this breakaway.
So what is the Lamprey plan here, Sean? You've got Cunego, a big overall favourite, has got into this group, and they've allowed him to go up the road, bridge the gap across to a group with the 2 men already in it. But Scarponi, last year's holder of the jersey, started with the number 1 on his back as one of the big favourites, is still sitting comfortably behind Ryder Hesjedal. Is it perhaps he's not feeling too good? Are they going to make everybody chase Damiano Cunego if he gets the pick jersey and give Scarponi a bit of breathing space? It's one of those questions that is worth a good discussion, to be honest. Matteo Carrara is still pushing on here. Johan Bruyneel comes past him, and then Yevgeny Petrov, winner of a stage in 2010 in filthy conditions. And then last on at 5.5 minutes, just about there. The Lamprey tactic, Sean. We've got Cunego, one of the big favourites, have been allowed to get into this group and pull out some sort of gap. But then they've still got Scarponi in that main group, sitting behind Ryder Hesjedal and just turning the pedals.
Yes, and it's a good position to be in with a team when you have a rider like Cunego, who I feel is not good enough to match the big men in the mountains, and we did see that in the big mountain finishes, especially the real steep ones. He's going to get into difficulty, and we see the first signs of that yesterday where he lost a little bit of time, and we see the answer today. He's going into the breakaways, trying to get away in a group, because if he just sit back with the big favourites every day and stay with them, he's going to have difficulty in the final climb, and that's the way he's going to race very aggressively, and that suits Scarponi. Lamprey, they have a man up there, so they're not going to have to ride. Liquigas and Basso can't look around and say to Scarponi, well, you've got to ride here, you've got to get men up front, and he's going to say, well, I have Damiano Cunego up there, I'm not riding, and that's the way the tactic works.
So Scarponi can stay within shouting distance of the top riders, and then if for any reason, everybody will have to hunt down Cunego, he'll just stay in the background, keeps himself a little bit fresher. The pressure is off him, maybe not fresher, but the pressure is off him, and then they've always got that second card to play. It's an interesting situation for Lamprey. Certainly Damiano Cunego came into this race in very good condition, Sean, but we do see, as we have seen before, in the big mountains, he does struggle. However good his condition is, he does struggle.
Yes, I think we've always seen him in the last years where he does struggle on the big monument stages where he has difficulty staying with the big favourites, and the tactic he's going for at the moment, that is the way to do it. Try and get up the road, and hopefully back in the bunch, that's the favourites and the teams, they will start looking at each other and not committing themselves 100%, and take a number of minutes like that, and that's his only chance of getting a place in the general classification, certainly getting on the podium and win this race. He has to be able to do that, and he's trying it today.
How good is Andre Amador, Sean? Yesterday wins the stage. Today he's up in the breakaway again. They clearly know he's feeling very strong. They've asked him how you're feeling, and he said, well, I feel good. And that'll give him a lift. He's changed his way of approaching racing an awful lot. He was almost second to last in the Tour de France last year. He crashed on stage 1, remember, and nursed an ankle injury. And they said, oh no, you can't carry on. You've got to stop now. It's a bad spray. And then he went, well, I'm going on. And he made it right the way through to the end. Second to last he was. But the Costa Rican, he got mugged, severely mugged, didn't he, over the winter period last year, and thrown in a ditch and left for whatever fates he was supposed to have.
Yes, that's right. Well, it was in December 2010, so a bit further back, and it was in the month of December he was coming back from training, got mugged, and left in the ditch, and he was unconscious, and they stole his bike, went off for his bike, and then he kind of woke up, came around and had his mobile phone. He was able to ring somebody and gave a number of weeks in hospital, and took a long time to recover and thought his career was going to be over. And 7 months later, I think he was back in the Tour of France, and of course last year he had that bad accident and struggled on, but still actually finished the race. And he came through the UCI cycling centre. He did the Tour of L'Avenir where he won a prologue, and he was very impressive there. He was racing against a lot of very good riders, TJ Van Garden, Coppel, Tarame, Rui Costa, all of those guys at that time, and they see the promise in him, and Kees de Pang, they decided to take him on, and he's been going pretty well for them, except that he had some problems. But in his first Giro, he finished 41st in general classification. But I think this is the best run of form. Maybe he's had a good time to get ready here. No problems, no crashes, and he's definitely proved his worth yesterday, and once again today up there after that huge long breakaway yesterday.
Yeah, he looked by far the strongest yesterday. That's for sure. And as we said yesterday, not the most elegant of riders, but certainly effective. As I said yesterday, he looks like some sort of gym-going bouncer. Sort of arms sticking out, legs sticking out, scowling and glancing around. He's sort of got a lot of aggression about his riding. This is Matteo Rabottini. Tiny little rider. Clearly feeling as though he's getting to that point. You got that look on his face. He's thinking, right, now I've got to really dig in now. I've got 45.5 kilometres to go. I've still got 5 minutes. But the interesting time gap there, Sean, is the one between the Chase group and the pink jersey, because we saw a shot very briefly of both Garmin and Liquigas starting to pile on the gas here.
Yes, they're starting to eat into the advantage, as we can see, and it takes a bit of time as well to get organised and get your troops on the front, and it is working at the moment, because it is going to come down. But again, we can see that chasing group, they're still hovering around that 5 minutes behind our lone man out in front, and I think there's some of those guys who will really start pushing it on in the end. They're just riding through there at the moment, going through the motion, but once we get into this final 25-30 kilometres, maybe on the penultimate climb of the day, if not, certainly on the last climb of the day, they will start attacking each other. And I think with the 5 minutes that we have to a leader on the front, they can't wait till the final climb. It might be a little bit too dangerous, so I feel that it will be the penultimate climb where they will start really pushing on.
This is for the third from last climb of the day. Over the top of the Frocella di Burra goes this man here. Lone ride for Vacansoleil and Rabottini. So they won a stage in the Tour of Turkey last year. But he's a good solid rider, but not necessarily what you'd call a prolific winner, Sean. He's just, I think he goes under 45 to go. A good worker.
Yes, a good worker, certainly, and in conditions like today, you have to have good workers, good solid men to be able to support the terrain and this condition as well. It's that bit extra, difficult, and we see Rabottini putting on gloves there as he got to the top of that climb, and that tells us how cold it is, because when you're climbing like that, you're very, very warm, you don't feel the cold, but still he's getting ready for the descent, and temperatures are really down, and that's going to take effect. You're going to have as they say in cycling terms, the big legs, the heavy legs in the final. It's definitely going to, take effect as you go further on. The more hours you're out on the bike, the more it hits you in the final hours.
As you say, Sean, some of the smaller riders have a little bit of difficulty as well, just accommodating that sort of long descent in the cold when they've been working so hard to stay. He's riding by himself. He's got nobody there to help him. Nobody there to pace him, and on the descent, just wrapping up a little bit. Rabottini, all by himself, one of the smaller riders, and who'd have thought that Farnese Vini would have ended up looking for the long, lone breakaway solo win here when they brought Filippo Pozzato as their team leader. And so many chances they had in the first week and a half, where Pozzato certainly could have got up there and didn't, and leaving in the end after poleaxing Matt Goss in the final really the final attempt that he could even try for a win.
Yes, well, of course, with Pozzato, he was trying to get up there in the finishes, and it's always difficult when you have the big bunch finish. As we know, Pozzato against the better sprinters, he's not fast enough, so he needs to get a stage where it's a bit difficult in the final and the sprinters are put under pressure or maybe dropped out of the main peloton. That's the way they could win a stage with Pozzato, but it did not work out, and I suppose we're expecting Pozzato to go on, but unfortunately the crash and broken finger, well, you cannot go on with that. And now you have to change your tactics. He's out of the team, gone home, and they have other riders, but they have been very active in this race.
Active, yeah.
The first days they have been up in the brakes a lot, so there's a lot of riders riding well here in this Farnese team.
Yeah, they've been doing extremely well. Five minutes and 6 seconds from Rabottini to the chasing group, which is a good gap for Rabottini. This is the chase group. Gustav Erik Larsson of Vacansoleil, along with Matteo Carrara, who's been doing a lot of the cajoling people to do things. Andre Amador, Mr. Angry, never looks particularly happy, but very effective. Stage winner yesterday. And they're clearly making use of him as much as they possibly can while he's in tip-top shape. Marco Pinotti in the red and black of BMC there has already been on the deck once today. Managed to work his way back up to the group, so they clearly weren't going hell for leather. And three men at one time from Lampre in this group. Mallory has fallen back. But they've got Diego Alisi and major contender Damiano Cunego. John McMillan, nice to hear from you, John. Old Scots Pro, he says, on is his name on Twitter, saying, could not the tactic be, Sean, and could well be, is let Garmin hunt down this group here, hunt down Cunego, and that would, and also Liquigas, do all the work, keep bringing them back, and then on the final climb of the day, Scarponi's fresh to go.
Well, Basso is going to be fresh, Hesjedal is going to be fresh. All the big favourites are, they're having the same work rate back in the bunch. They're not riding. It's not Batwo's riding from Liquigas, it's his teammates. Hesjedal, he's not riding on the front. He's not going to do anything. He's going to wait till the final climb, and that's the same for all the favourites who are just in the main bunch. And on the final climb, they will try and attack. They will have to up the pace because they will be without any of their domestique, so they're going to have to get it going on that final climb. And as we can see here, this breakaway of 11 riders, they're going to push on as well, so depending on where they are on the final climb as well, at that time the other big favourites will have to make their tactic and decide their tactic.
3 minutes and 30 seconds is the gap between the chasing group and the peloton. Now best placed man in the peloton is Damiano Cunego at 2 minutes and 43. He still has an advantage. 45 kilometers to go for the chasing group. Rabottini, for the first time, it's fallen under the 5 minute mark. Things are beginning to move. Lampre back in the peloton, not having to do a thing, of course. They've got two men up there, and it's Liquigas and the leaders team of Garmin Barracuda having to do the work now, and they're beginning to eat into it. 3:30 the gap. We're under the 40 kilometres to go mark for Matteo Rabottini. Good on him. Riding very well, and the gap is at 5 minutes and steady. It's looking very good for Farnese Vini at the moment as the peloton goes over the top of the Forcella di Bura climb. 8 minutes and 4 seconds back on Rabottini, but it's about a 3 minute gap now between the chase group and the peloton, they've lifted their pace, Sean. I got a text message from David Miller, would you believe? Hello David, how you doing? Glad you're watching. Hope you're okay. Everything's back on the bike again after your collarbone busting episodes. Wife Nicole and Nigel want to know, what is riding tempo? Sean, you're the perfect man. What is riding tempo? Because they've upped the tempo here. They're not chasing so much they were riding tempo before.
Yes, well, tempo means when you have a group out front, for example, as we have 11 riders and in the breakaway, and in the front of the bunch, the race leaders team or a number of teams start riding at a pace, not 100%, but giving it 90% and keep the break maybe at 4 or 5 minutes. That's what usually tempo means. Also, you could be riding along on a flat stage and nobody out in front of the race, and the team of race leader have 3-4 riders on the front, and they're riding at a pace where they're also giving, maybe 80%, and that's also called they ride just tempo to keep the peloton moving along, to stop any attacks coming out of the bunch. So, ride tempo when you talk to your riders and you come up with a team car, as we see here. You say to the guy, just ride, keep on a good tempo, give it 90%, 95%, or it can be 80%, depending on what the tactic is and what you have to do on the road.
Just literally a constant tempo, riding around, keeping control on things, keeping a lid on things, not everybody in the line, not moving at different speeds, not increasing the speed of the peloton particularly, and not retarding it, but just keeping a constant tempo between everything.
Yes.
There you go.
And when you go on the Cyclo Sportives, for example, you're in a group and you say to guys, you're riding on the flat and then you come on a hill and you say to the guys, like, we'll just keep tempo here. Because some guys, they get to a hill, and the reaction normally is with cyclists, when you get to a hill, you just start belting, sprinting up it. That's the way, a lot of the people in Sportives, they just ride on the flat, and the minute they see a hill, off they go in full sprint, full gas. And, you say to the guys, we'll ride tempo on the hill, and, you mean we'll ride not giving it 100% and try and keep a group together if you're a group of 15 or 20 riders.
So there you go, Nicole. I don't know why David couldn't explain that to you, but there we are. Nicole and father-in-law Nigel.
If we have forgotten nothing, David can explain the rest.
Yeah, David can explain the rest. We'll explain tempo, and then David could explain the other 357,000 machinations of riding to you. You've got plenty of years together to explain it. 36.9 kilometres is the distance still remaining. 5:10. Rabottini, I think, is riding his way towards victory here, Sean, which I think, it looks like it at the moment. He could just completely detonate, of course, on the final climb of the day, but he's doing exceptionally well. The gap, though, between the chase group and the peloton is coming down now. 3 minutes.
Yes, it is coming down, and again, for Rabottini, I'm not too sure that is in the bag yet. We'll have to wait another bit on this climb of San Pietro. That's where we will see, I think, a clearer picture. And in this breakaway, chasing the lone man the road, 11 riders, I feel that we could see quite a lot of action here on this climb, which is a difficult one, and with the bunch coming up as well, anybody has any fire left in their belly, they're going to have to start going here, because, as you said, coming down to 3 minutes, they cannot hang around to the final climb.
Yep, the climb, that chase group is going to sort of start fracturing fairly shortly. This is Matteo Rabottini. He's nowhere on the GC. He's 49 minutes and 45 seconds down, so they're going for the stage win today, and they deserve it, really. They put an awful lot into this Giro d'Italia in terms of entertainment, and they've been aggressive and attacked every day. They've got somebody into the break nearly all the time. They're on the San Pietro climb here. You can see maximum slope of 12%. Good to ride tempo up here. Look, 5.2%. Keep going. Just keep a steady tempo. We've opened up a can of worms, though. I blame Miller, actually. Brian Smith writing in on @spokesman saying Kelly's tempo was always faster than everybody else's. He's just raised his eyebrows with a wry smile there, Brian, so he's not denying it. Somebody else writing in saying explaining tempo is like trying to explain the offside rule. It probably is, actually, yeah. Gustav Erik Larsson at 5 minutes plus back. Larsson, 5 minutes and 26, just a shade under 5.5. He's riding on the front now with Damiano Cunego in his wheel. Two vastly different sizes of rider. Superb time trialist, Larsson. It's over his shoulder. It's a proper mixture of sizes, this one. Losada's not very big, Seller's small, Cunego's small, Cheruka's tiny. And now, as you can see, the gap significantly under what it was. Ryder Hesjedal's pink jersey seeming to be a little bit more safe now, but still, they left it a little bit. And as we suggested, Sean, that within the 50-kilometre mark, they had to start riding. That's pretty much exactly what they did. Liquigas and Garmin Barracuda starting to ride together to protect that jersey, to protect the jersey in the case of Garmin, and to bring back the gap in the case of Basso, to keep everything under control.
Yes. Well, Basso, of course, he's the one with his full team back there in the main bunch. He had to do something, but they played it well. They bluffed it for a while, stopped riding totally, and pretty quickly the Garmin riders started, to come to the front, whether in the group at that time or whether they may be on the rear or a little bit off the rear of the main bunch. So it's possible that we're waiting for them to get back into the main bunch of Basso and Ryder Hesjedal.
Lamps ablaze, lighting up the fluoro kit of Matteo Rabottini of Farnese Vini. They're in Vedesteta on the lower slopes of the San Pietro climb here. And he's still got 5 minutes and 12 seconds over the chasing group, Sean, and it's sort of, everything seems to be keeping its own sort of calm way at the moment. The gap has been shut down a little bit by Liquigas and by Garmin Barracuda, but still a big gap for Rabottini. And why aren't they making any inroads, I wonder?
Well, I think they're all making the calculation. This final is very difficult, and this San Pietro climb, it's just under 10 kilometres, and then you have a descent of 12 kilometres and almost 8 kilometres to the finish. I think there has to be some men in this 11-man chasing group who are still feeling okay, and I think we will see the answer to that very quickly. As we're getting on to this San Pietro climb, they should start pushing on here, because it is 5 minutes. They need to start stirring it up here, and we can see Cunego just rolling it on, and I think they will just start pushing it on a bit faster, and I'd be not surprised at all if we see somebody going in the attack out of this chasing group.
Lucas Ginto being asked to, where exactly are we? How far have I got to go? Can I stop pedalling yet? Are we there yet, Dad? And I think this is a very good tactic by Lucas Ginto. Is keeps the morale of the rider high, Sean. You go alongside him, and if you chat to him over and over and over and over, he forgets how much he's got to go. And then when he starts, his head starts going down. There's a little bit more encouragement. You could chat to him for like 2 or 3 kilometres like this, and he wouldn't know he'd done 2 or 3 kilometres.
Well, you can chat to him, as we can see here.
Make him smile anyway.
Rabottini is having a smile, actually, but you're starting to suffer here. He has to be suffering the time he's been out. But Skinto is going to say to him, look, you still have 5 minutes. They're not organised behind. There's a lot of them starting to suffer. There's some of them sitting in that 11-man group. There's 2 or 3 of them hanging on the back. They're not looking good. He would use all of that tactic just to give him a bit more morale and to keep him going up there.
Also, again in the dark blue there. Always has the casquette turned up, and it's always a sort of jaunty angle at the peak. Never quite gets it completely straight. 3 minutes, almost exactly, is the gap, and Hesjedal still plugging away here, but a little bit further down the order here, Sean, and I wonder whether he's been back or whether he's suffering a little bit, or just nestling himself inside of other people. I shouldn't think he's suffering too much, but you never know. He put a big effort in yesterday to get away. Yep, just about 3 minutes exactly is the gap. 33.3 kilometres to go for this man here, Matteo Rabottini. And Farnese Vini, who've had a man in most breaks this time around in the Giro d'Italia, look as if they might well be coming towards the possibility of a win. His best result so far this year, Rabottini, was right back at the beginning of the year in the Tour of Langkawi. He got a 3rd place on one of the stages in the Tour of Langkawi. Did, as I say, he won a stage in the Tour of Turkey last year, but he's done okay. I mean, he's been in the top 30 or so in Giro del Trentino, and that was a very hard minor, but very hard race this year. Extremely tough climbs, won by, of course, Domenico Pozzovivo. So he's in reasonable form, and he seems to have timed it pretty well, Sean, because he's clearly going well today. Yes,
he's going well. We will see if he's timed it well. I don't know if we can say timed it well, but the circumstances as well. He got onto that climb, the first climb of the day, the Valico de Valcava, and we did see the AG2R rider Bonafone. He was up there, but he wasn't able to match the pace at all, and he just pushed on his own. And you find yourself in a situation, you just continue on then, and you're hoping that back in the bunch there'll not be too much of a battle between the big favourites. And I think the problem as well is there was a few riders here in this chasing group, as we mentioned, in the general classification. They can move up real big time in that, and they want to push on big time. But again, there's a lot of interest with other riders who want to get a stage victory, and not allow him maybe to pull out enough of an advantage to go out on his own. But still, 5 minutes, he's working real well. Now, we will see pretty quickly in the next number of kilometres, if he can hold on to this 5-minute advantage going over the top of this one, well, then it looks, a great chance for him to go on and take a stage victory.
You see how dark it is up here, look. Headlamps bouncing off the back of those shorts and the back of his calves there. Very, very dark. Nasty weather today up here on the Giro d'Italia. So the tactic in that chasing group, Sean, as you say, we've got a whole number of people with all sorts of agendas, for want of a better word. Pinotti's at 4:37. He's out there by himself. He's had to chase back on, having fallen off, pushing on. So he clearly wants to go hard and try and eat into the time gap that he has to the pink jersey. 4:37 it was. Diego Ulissi, well, he's only at 5 minutes and 50, but really he's on the front of this group here now. He's there for Damiano Cunego. He's only at 2 minutes and 43 seconds. Emanuele Sella, well, he's at 15 odd minutes. No chance of really taking much out of this today, except for going for that stage win. And they want another one in the mountains, Androni, I'm sure of it. And clearly they've seen Farnese Vini up here as well. Let's get a man in the break. Another Italian team, smaller Italian team. We need to keep the spotlight on us, keep them in there. Ahmed Cheruka seems to be riding himself into slightly better form, Sean. He's been more active in the last 3-4 days than we've seen him. He looked to be suffering a little bit. Bruggen at 7 minutes and 16. He's out for not just a stage winter, but really push himself up in the general classification. Matteo Carrara, a 1 hour 38. Again, he's another rider. He's been cajoling them, getting them going, working together. He's not the sort of man who's going to be going for much more in the GC, but he will be going for something in the overall classification. In the stage today. But he has got his teammate Gustav Eglarsson at 5 minutes and 26 seconds, but he's pushing on at the front as well. Maybe they're just targeting a stage win for Vacansoleil, if they can.
Well, what you have to do in the situation they're in, they keep on riding, and but they are a lot of energy conserving here in the last 25-30 kilometres, I think. But we should see now as we get further up the climb, because he still have 32 k's to go. The top of this one I think is 25 k's, so there's another 6 or 7 k of this climb, and we will see here what will happen.
Two and 3/4 minutes is the gap. It's coming down. The work from Basso and Basso's team, should I say, Liquigas, and the pink jerseys team of Garmin Barracuda have brought the gap under control to that chase group, but things still haven't worked out in that chase group. They still haven't begun to fire off the salvos at each other in that chasing group. Kumbrovic, I think is probably how you pronounce your name. Please explain to me. He's had lots of questions, some of which we've not had time to deal with. Please explain to me why Liquigas do all the work every day, Sean, despite Basso not getting a whiff of pink this year. Well, it ain't over, is it?
It's certainly not over, and Basso, it's the question is, how good is Basso? Yesterday, we see them again doing a huge amount of work. Basso, of course, he likes to have a team to make the pace on the front. That is what he likes to do, and that's the best way he can climb. So, if you put a team on the front and they start riding a good pace, as we see Perazzi here throwing in a dig.
Yeah.
But the Liquigas, that is the tactic. Ride to the style that Basso like, keep him in contention, and at the moment he's very much up there at 1:05. He is, in a real good position at this point in the race, and Liquigas are just it's all for Basso in that team.
We did mention, of course, that Stefano Perazzi hadn't done a thing as far as we could see, and everything else we saw, he hadn't done a thing either. Now this is the big crunch time for Matteo Rabottini, although I've got to say, Perazzi, although he loves to attack, he looks tireder than we've seen him before. I
don't think he likes the conditions.
No.
He comes from the southern part of Italy. I think the warm, good conditions, that's where he can perform real well. He looks to be suffering already here, and he still have 5 kilometres to the top of this climb, so he's not pulling away an advantage. And normally when he goes into attack, he puts in a big one, takes 50, 100 metres very quickly, and there he hasn't got 25, 30 metres and seems to be struggling already.
4:41 for Rabottini. Gap coming down just a little bit. I thought it was looking good for Rabottini, but gap has come down quite quickly. 30 seconds knocked out of it. Okay, Perazzi's gone off the front, but not sure how long he'll be out there. You never know, though, with Stefano Perazzi. Had a chance earlier in this Giro d'Italia with Andre Amador, if I remember correctly. And managed to overshoot a corner. Well, almost run into the back of a motorcycle, which wasn't going quick enough, and that's why he he missed out on it. He had to slow right down and missed the corner, unfortunately. Peter Stedner beginning to suffer. He's had a great Giro d'Italia so far, Sean, but I think as the time goes on and the conditions get worse, he's beginning to suffer here.
Well, I'm not surprised he's suffering, because he was one of the riders from Garmin Barracuda who was setting the pace the last 25 kilometres, and he's just giving it everything, and he's at the end of his energies there and just going to ride in at his own pace. He is a good rider, in his own right, but when you have to ride on a day like this, when you do 20 or 30 kilometres riding very hard on the front, you're going to pay dearly in the final kilometres.
Perazzi, one of the riders who's enlivened the Giro d'Italia over the last couple of years, but he knows he's committed himself now. He knows he's committed himself now, coming out of that favourites group. I think perhaps he thought somebody might go with him, Sean, and he might get a couple of riders coming across to him. He kept looking behind, and that perhaps that they would start attacking each other big time. It looks as though it's beginning to break up a little bit here, but maybe that's what he thought, that he'd have somebody coming with him and they could work together.
Well, I think when Perazzi has somebody with him, he just keeps on attacking him. We see him with Amador, although he did not want to ride, but he was still giving that sudden acceleration, and Perazzi's a difficult one to ride with, but he doesn't seem to have that punching style he has on some occasions when he gets out of the bunch. And we can see here now this group is starting to split, and the stronger men are just pushing on.
Just coming back on Komrovic's question, he says, thanks for that. He said, if they're doing it for Basso, fine, but I think other teams are taking advantage of them. Well, of course they are. If somebody's going to ride on the front and keep the tempo going, why should you send your men up there and do it? Stay behind them, let them do it. That's the whole point. They're hoping they'll wear themselves out. It's a question we've asked ourselves, and we've put on the commentary over the last week or so. Liquigas always on the front, always doing work for Basso. Are they going to have anybody left when it comes to the big mountains? We're only second day in the really big mountains. We got right the way through until the end of the week to go. So it's a good question. And are people taking advantage of that? Of course they are. When they can, they will. Stefano Perazzi is making some inroads into Matteo Rabottini. And Perazzi certainly has given us entertainment. This man's done a great job today so far, though. But he's definitely beginning to suffer, Sean. Just this whole rocking of the shoulders thing. He is still spinning a smallish gear, but he does look as though he's beginning to suffer here.
Well, he's still riding quite well, and it's difficult to know because they're on different parts of the climb, and the sections vary a bit. Rabottini is climbing quite well at the moment, and he's working, as we talked about, tempo. He's just keeping his own tempo, where in that breakaway of 11 riders are starting to attack each other, and Perazzi, of course, is after putting in a bit of a sudden acceleration. We can see Cunego also chasing him down, and I think the gap is coming down, but will they continue on riding? I think yes, that breakaway, there's a lot of riders there who are capable of still riding for quite a long time on this penultimate climb.
Good tempo being set by Jack Bauer on the front there, the big New Zealand rider. Yep, Rabottini looks like, we all know this feeling, don't we? Been out for a long day on a long training ride, and you're still a long way away from home. Perazzi goes through the fog, 4 minutes down on Rabottini now. Oh, he's got to work real hard to get across to Rabottini now. 28.9 kilometers to go. The gap between Perazzi and the pink jersey group, absolutely fine, but it's the gap between this man here, Matteo Rabottini, who is finally having to ride towards something that looks like it might be a stage victory. And Luca Scinto, just talking to one of the Rai TV cameras there, they often have Paolo Salvodelli on the back of the bike, and he'll have a microphone and be chatting to Luca Scinto there, I think, but that's what they were doing. Luca Scinto is having a quick talk to the men. It could be their day today. Thank goodness for that, for them. Anyway, Jack Bauer setting the pace on the front here now, Sean. 30 kilometers to go for Perazzi, chasing on after. He's not making too much inroads into Rabottini yet.
No, not eating into us quickly, but again, it's coming down, and I think still with 28 kilometers to go, there's sufficient amount of time, because Rabottini on that final climb, I'm afraid that he's going to have major difficulty to keep it going as he has been in the last shots we've seen him. And the riders that are coming out of this breakaway, Perazzi has been sitting on that breakaway for kilometre after kilometre, so he has to have more energy left for the final climb, and it will depend on the descent as well of this San Pietro descent. It's a long one, it's 12k. Perazzi, it all depends how he will descend this one, but I think the other riders back in that breakaway, they're not too far off, and we could see them pulling back Perazzi before we even get to the top of this climb.
Yep, Cunego being one of them. Yeah, so it's a nasty narrow descent on the way down, and the roads are not good. Rabottini's done well so far, but tiredness can always play a part in this, Sean. I mean, how difficult is it to start to concentrate when you've been out for such a long time in Rabottini's sort of position? You've got a difficult descent now, slippery, greasy roads, fog, as you can see, very low cloud. You're absolutely knackered. How much concentration do you really need?
Well, you need to be, first of all, if you're feeling good, and it's important going uphill to be feeling good, and also going downhill in the conditions we have here. The concentration, you have to concentrate so much. So if you're starting to get tired, that's the time you can start making mistakes. And then when you get really tired, if you're close to the finish and you get onto the final climb, and it's only the last 3-4k, maybe 5 kilometers, if you're getting really low on reserves, you still have a nice advantage where you have a good chance of going to the finish. You can dig in so much, And we've seen riders, really on the limit of their energy levels, 3-4 kilometres out from the finish, but the circumstances, an opportunity to win a stage, they can just dig so deep and keep going and just hold on.
It's almost a case that you need much more concentration going down than you're going to need in the last climb, Sean. I mean, your type of concentration is different again. You've got to concentrate, be really on the ball, really with it for your braking points and your descent and your line down the mountain here, just as we watch Jack Bauer leading the peloton down here. But do you feel, physically almost feel, a mental difference when you get into that last climb of the day? Do you feel as though you concentrate in a different way to concentrate on rhythm?
Well, I think if you're in a situation where you have a number of minutes ahead of a chasing group and it looks like there's a good possibility to hold on and get a stage victory, then you get that extra energy from somewhere, and you can just keep on working at it. And the pain barrier as well, you can push it so much into the pain barrier when you're that you're getting really close to getting a big win, and you just dig deeper and deeper, and the riders can do that. They can suffer that much more.
Rabottini has just got to hang on now for under 30 kilometres. Here he is. He's been riding at his own pace, good pace, all day. And he has to get over the descent of this San Pietro climb and then into the final climb of the day. The final climb is not an easy one either, Sean. It's about 7.5, well, just nearly under 8 kilometres, but very steep at the bottom and just continues to rise and rise and rise. The San Pietro has got this little flat in the middle, which Rabottini has just gone over. That's where we saw him accelerating a little bit, but the last climb is just relentless.
Yes, it is. It's going to be a real killer, the final climb, because everybody is going to start feeling it after such a difficult day. The weather conditions, the cold conditions, it doesn't help, and the legs will be starting to get real heavy. And it's just all about how much they can keep for the final climb, how strong they are. Riders differ, of course, and there's riders that can get out in a breakaway like this and they can be still so strong in the final climb after being out for a long time. If you see Amador yesterday, he looked to be pretty cooked before even the final climb, but he still had a lot of power left, and he worked really hard at it and kept going at quite a good rate. And that is the question now. Rabottini, how much he's got left in the tank, and he's getting closer to this penultimate climb, the San Pietro climb, because 25 kilometres from the finish when you get to the summit of this one, so just over 2 kilometres to go. It does ease off at the top a little bit, so he's getting there, and get down the descent and get onto the final climb. Advantage at the moment is still looking possible.
Yep, 4 minutes or so is the advantage for Rabottini over Stefano Perazzi, who has been chasing him, and there's 4 other riders, including Cunego, coming up after that as well. Right, if you're just joining us, 27 kilometres to go on this stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia. A difficult day today. 169 kilometres, including one first category climb, the Valcava, a third category climb over the Forcella di Bura, the second category climb that they're on now, the San Pietro, running down off there 12 kilometres and up to the final second cat finish at Piana de Resinelli. Today it was a question of, well, who would attack Ryder Hesjedal if they could, and in the end it turned out to be quite a big group. Matteo Rabottini and Guillaume Bonnefond went away. They took the initial sprint, first and second. Rabottini got first, Bonnefond got second. Incidentally, Mark Cavendish got the third place in that intermediate sprint, racking up a few points, which is really good for him. And he shows he's taking that fight very, very seriously indeed. Then a big group formed and got away, and they pulled out a big gap over the pink jersey of Ryder Hesjedal, and also other favourites like Ivan Basso. We won't mention Scarponi because he's in the group. Ulisi and Mallory were originally in the group. Mallory fell back and Damiano Cunego bridged the gap. So now in the chasing group we had the chasing group of Matteo Rabottini anyway, was Diego Ulissi, Damiano Cunego, both from Lampre, Sella from Androni, Petrov from Astana, Pinotti of BMC, who crashed at one time and worked his way back on again, Perazzi of Colnago, who came across, Losada of Katusha, Cheruka of Euskaltel, Flescher was originally in there from Sky and has dropped back to the main peloton, Marzio Brugigin of the Movistar team. He was joined by Andre Amador, yesterday's stage winner, as the second category, San Pietro, is crested by Matteo Rabottini. Matteo Carrera of Vacansoleil and also Gustav Erik Larsson of that team as well. That's all broken up. My word, I tell you what, Matteo Carrera didn't half yell at people to get them to work together to keep up that gap. And lots of different vested interests in the chasing group. Damiano Cunego at 2 minutes and 43 seconds. What is the plan? Put Ryder Hesjedal under pressure, have to chase him. Was Scarponi just sitting in there to save it for another day? Would Scarponi attack on the final climb? We don't know yet, because this is the penultimate climb, and Rabottini still is out ahead of Stefano Perazzi, who's attacked out of the group, and he has a gap of about 4 minutes. Luca Gas and Garmin Barracuda have been setting the pace to cut the gap down, but still Rabottini looks as though he might be ahead. "25 kilometers to go in this stage 15. And Ara Farnesini finally going to get a stage win. Sean, head on the block time. Are they going to get a stage win?
Well, I think we have to wait a little moment. As we can see, 1:29, 1:30. I think they're around inside a kilometre to the top of this penultimate climb, the San Pietro. That will, I think, give a good indication. First of all, with Perazzi, who's chasing, but then how far is Cunego and the rest of that group? Brugigin, Cheruka, a lot of very good climbers here. It will be interesting to see, because if he can make a good descent, Rabottini, then he could hold on to that advantage. But we can see, it's still ticking away there, and if he can hold around the 4 minutes, well, then it is possible to hold on, but it's going to be a big battle.
Here we are, Perazzi is in this group now, and as we said, it looked like he might have been suffering a little bit. Perhaps he was waiting for other people. He's at the back of this group, and I don't think Perazzi is going to be around too much longer. He looks as though he's really hurting. Amador in this group again, along with Damiano Cunego. Again, he's keeping that pressure piled on behind. Alberto Losada from Katusha in the red and white, and Ahmed Cheruka in the bright orange of Euskaltel. They've had a very, very lean Giro d'Italia. Again, and one of those teams who's got an interest here, because they haven't taken a win either. Over the top they go. 2:46 only is the gap. My word, they've sped up. And Rabottini, how heartbreaking it would be for him if he rides all day and gets caught within about 3 kilometers of the top, Sean, or even less.
It's not looking good at the moment, because that's a 2:46 advantage, I'm afraid, on this final climb, that he is going to really pay. And the riders we have chasing there, Cheruka, Cunego, they're definitely a lot more energy left, because they haven't been out like Rabottini has been, and I'm afraid that this final climb is just going to be too much for our sole leader on the road.
Well, the question is, who will take it out of the following group? This is the rest of the chase group. Now, Diego Ulissi won't do anything at all, because Damiano Cunego is up ahead. Neither will Marzio Brugigin. He'll sit at the back. He's done a lot of work earlier. Andre Amador, yesterday's winner, is also in the group. Sella, Pinotti, Petrov have all missed out there. They go over the top, 4 minutes down. Not that much different to it was before for Rabottini in the greater part of the chasing group, but of course there's now an attack out of that. Russo setting pace on the front for Liquigas. It's a very narrow, winding road. And once again, Liquigas have taken up the cudgel. My word, they're riding strong all the way through this Giro d'Italia. They have been on the front just about. I mean, actually, it's easier to talk about when they haven't been on the front than when they have. You can see the nature of the descent. Look, twisting and turning, narrow, drying out in some places, wet in others, and Rabottini chucking the bike from side to side, Sean. It really is twisting and turning this, and it could be very dangerous if they're chasing on after Rabottini. He has that advantage, I guess. If he wants to take a few chances himself, he can at least keep the gap out a bit more if everybody behind is just going to leave it for the last climb.
Well, I think in this group of chasers, Cunego, we know how he can descend. He's a real good descender, and I don't think Rabottini is going to gain a lot on the descent because they are going to push on as well. They have 1:15 ahead of the rest of the breakaway, the Bruyneel group, and they are going to push on. I think Chiruka has interest as well. He is certainly in with a chance of taking stage victory here. Amador, again, very, very strong up there and in that group, and of course he's in the mountain classification. We see him there going over in third position, so he's going to move up a lot in that classement because he was fourth starting out this morning. So I think the chasing group of Cunego, they're the ones who is going to be the problem for our leader Rabottini out in front.
This is interesting. Look, Kreuziger's Astana team have now come onto the front, or is it Tirolongo's? We shall not know until perhaps the end of today, because Roman Kreuziger lost a few seconds yesterday to his Cunego really trying hard. Perazzi after him, Losada taking it wide. We saw how Amador could come down yesterday. Look, Pantani style descending. We haven't seen that for a while. Hang off the back of the saddle like a mountain biker. Seems to be a trend for sitting on the top tube these days. Reduces your frontal profile, that's for sure, but it doesn't look either very comfortable or very safe to me. And Rabottini is in a difficult situation, this, because some of this is dry and some of it's wet, Sean.
Yes, and it is not a good surface. We can see it's broken quite a bit, and not a nice descent, and when it's a little bit wet, dries out a bit, that's when it's very dangerous, because you push on a bit, you think it's dry, and then suddenly you hit a wet patch, and that's where you can get caught out. As we can see, Cunego is pushing away here from the other ones in the chasing group. And interesting, back in the bunch there, we see Astana starting to push on as well, and at the moment it's really getting tight for everybody, for Cunego as well, who is the 3 minutes behind, because the group of race leader Basso, Scarponi, 5:39, yep, it's also coming down very quickly, and there's nobody safe at the moment as we go into this final climb of the day of 7.8 kilometres.
2.5 minutes is the gap between the Cunego group and the pink jersey. I fear every time I'm watching Rabottini go through these twisting bends, as it straightens out a bit, he's okay, but he flicks the bike from side to side. He changes the direction of the bike very quickly indeed. And on a surface like this, it's dangerous stuff. It's all about being smooth. Paolo Salvadelli was the master of this in years gone by in the Giro d'Italia. Cunego is quite a smooth descender. Doesn't throw the bike around much. And he seems to be pulling away from, I think it was Perazzi was the last guy. But you see, even he has to sort of alter his weight, shift his balance very quickly, Sean, from one corner to another here.
Yes, well, the corners are coming very quickly, as you can see here. A little bit right, then left immediately, and when you're going at a very fast rate, and they're probably doing close to 50k per hour, so you have to get the line right. As we can see, is that Cunego with the foot out?
Yes, I think it is, yep. Cunego's got the foot out there, getting around that corner.
Bit of skating.
Bit of speedway style. Well, the gap is closing up on Rabottini slightly. 18.6 kilometres to go. It's looking far less comfortable for Albertini. He's ridden a great day today, but the gap has come down quite significantly. The interesting one is the gap between the chase group and the pink jersey there in the middle of Ryder Hesjedal. Quite a big gear. Descending in a big gear does have the advantage of keeping the chain on as well doing that. And their Stana team at the front here, Sean, putting the pace down for this descent here. Kreuziger and Tirolongo, your view about that now? Who is the team leader here now? Or they're going to play the double whammy in the same way as they can do at Lamprey?
Well, I think they're going to just try and get onto this climb and see who is in good shape, and I'd not be surprised if we see Tirolongo having to make the pace, I think, but will it be today or will it be in the days to come? But they are pushing on, and we can see there there's a split, 20 riders maybe maximum. Then there's a little bit of a gap, and we can say 2 or 3 Lamprey riders, and Basso is, I think, just a little bit off of the rear, and his teammates are just staying with him and trying to get him down this one, because Astana are putting him under a bit of difficulty, and they'll be not happy with that. Liquid gas after riding all day, controlling the race, and then they attack you on the descent.
It's racing.
It's racing, but still, it's not a thing that the riders they take easily, as we see. Down he
Rabottini. Oh, come on, lad! Come on! You can do it. Stay calm, Matteo Rabottini, and he was clearly a mixture of fatigue and real effort going into this short to try and keep that gap open. He knows people are coming down after him, but putting a big effort in. And it may be this dry, wet, dry. Whoa, it's just gone away on the wet again.
A little bit tighter than he had anticipated, and we can see here the white lines as well. If you touch something like that, the white line, a manhole cover, the steel covers, well then you can slide off so quickly. But again, he's pushing it. He's pushing it big time here, and again, is it fatigue or is it just that he's taking a little bit more risk?
Who knows? Under 17 kilometres to go. Very quick work by Luca Scinto and the mechanic there, the driver of the car, getting out, pushing Matteo Rabottini off again. They were there almost instantly, and Rabottini just looked, I don't believe it, sort of look on his face. I think he's at the end of his rope, to be honest. And looks like the pursuing riders are gaining on Damiano Cunego again. Yes, he's just up ahead. There is Cunego, looks over his shoulders. I think he knows the other riders are coming back up to him now. Clearly the better descender, but he hasn't pulled out enough. And keep the pace rolling on. If the others can come to him, that's good. We'll keep working together. 16 kilometres to go. 2 minutes 34 seconds for Matteo Rabottini. He's got back into his rhythm, but how much will that have thrown him? I wonder. Rabottini takes the 9 points at the top. Amador gets 3 there for that mountains classification points. Third-year professional Matteo Rabottini. And he's got 2 minutes and 40 seconds. He's still got it just about enough. If he can get into a good rhythm and they don't just all go hammer and tongs at it afterwards. It's Amador, Pirazzi, Cheruca who are after him. Ooh, it's very slippery. Even Cunego's taking it easy here. Ryder Hesjedal is on this long descent that goes from wide bends that you can see right through in a straight line to this sort of flick-flack left-right. And the gap that seems to be growing a little bit, Sean, between the chasing group and the pink jersey as well here. Cunego trying to push on. He was only 243 down this morning. Oh, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Rabottini doesn't have another spill at some point. He looks very tired to me, Sean. Yes,
he's starting to look tired, although he's His movements all day have been, pretty much, they haven't changed a lot, I don't think. But again, the way he reacted when he was on the ground there, he was sitting there and he said, this is not possible, I'm down. And normally the rider gets up very quickly, and when you're out in front like that, they immediately just get on their feet, back on their bike, and he was a little bit slow to do that.
Yep.
I think the gap is not going to be sufficient at all here. 2:12 at the moment, and the riders that are coming up, they're much fresher, and Cunego, as we can see, he's just going to be pulled back here, and they have, there's some serious good finishers here on this sort of a climb. I think like a Chiruka, for example, he's also a real strong one.
About 3.5 minutes now, the gap between Damiano Cunego and the pink jersey, and Astana have put a little bit of pressure on at the front for Scarponi, for Ivan Basso, and also for Ryder Hesjedal. Scarponi keen to follow very quickly, as was Hesjedal, but as you say, Sean, Basso a little bit off the back here. Amador in the dark blue, Pirazzi at the back here, 55. Alberto Losada is the quiet one here. We've not mentioned him at all, Sean, and he's not done much of the pulling. He's just kept himself under wraps there.
He certainly has, and it's very important in a stage like this one. The conditions, very, very energy sapping, very demanding, and he could be the one who could have that little bit left, because not contributing anything to the breakaway all day, it does count a lot in the end, and with a very difficult final climb here of 7.8 kilometres, he could be the man.
Amador muscles his bike around, doesn't he? He wants to get the car. 15 kilometres remaining. It's stage 15. If you're joining us, this is the final climb of the day coming up. It's about 8 kilometres long up to Piani dei Resinelli. We're in the area where they run the Tour of Lombardy, and it's tough riding around here, Sean, and actually not that dissimilar in weather conditions to you get at the Tour of Lombardy a lot of times.
It's certainly not. Very, very similar to what we've seen in the Tour of Lombardy, although Tour of Lombardy is in September. You could expect it then, but at this time of the year you'd be hoping to get better conditions. But unfortunately, this Giro, we had 2 weeks of extremely good weather. We get into the mountains when you really need the good weather, and there you go, the bad weather yesterday immediately as we approach the big mountain stages.
A couple of questions coming in on descending, Sean. We always get descending questions. This is Rabottini. He's been on the deck, and Sebastian asking, does his fall get relayed to all the other riders in the peloton? Will they know that corner is a bit dodgy now?
Yes, well, I think the team cars following will see exactly what we're seeing on our screens here. They will have the TVs, and they will be able to see that, so they will immediately get on the earpiece to the rider, get on the radio and say there's a dangerous corner, knock off your speed a bit, and it does help a lot. And we did see Cunego going down there, and I think he was made aware that Rabottini had fallen, so he just knocked it off a little bit to be careful and not to get into difficulty.
Our good friend Peter McSherry asking a question as well. Sean was a very fast descender. He certainly was, still is. Did you descend with your backside off the saddle at the back, or did you descend on the top bar, or neither, or were you always in the saddle?
Most of the time in the saddle. Sometimes on the descent, if you're not really going for it big time, you can just get out the saddle and stretch your legs a bit, because on a long descent you can do that. Depending on the weather conditions as well, if it's dry you can do a lot more on the descent, but when it's wet like today and we see the roads, the corners, very slippery, there you have to be just very cool on the bike, stay in the saddle, keep the weight just on the pedal, stand on the pedal as you go around the corner, and just keep the weight distributed to both wheels. You don't lean out over the front of the bike or lean back on the bike, because then one of the wheels, if you're leaning back too much, well, the front, it's a bit light in the front, it can slide a bit, so you have to be very cool, and no sudden movements as well in the wet conditions. That is very important. You get the line good, and you do not correct it too quickly. If you have to correct it, you try and correct very slowly, but the sudden movement, that's where you can slide off.
I was going to say, that's what was was going through my mind when we were watching Rabottini flicking from one bend to the other. He just moves that bike so quickly. You think, well, that's when it's like anything. It's like riding a motorcycle or a car even at speed through bends. If you flick it really quickly, if it's not, you unsettle the car, or you unsettle the bike, you unsettle the bicycle. So it's a bit difficult. Do they use wet weather tyres? Other questions coming in. No, they don't. They might use a slightly heavier tread pattern. Amazing how grippy they are. Some are absolutely lethal. You get some new compounds coming on. There's a big team that should remain nameless in the Giro d'Italia a couple of years ago who were all on a new compound of tyre. Same manufacturers they'd had in the previous years, but had a new compound. It was absolutely lethal in the wet. Everybody was over. And it sometimes happens. And some batches are different, aren't they, Sean? Some batches are really good and others aren't so good.
Yes, you kind of get a supply of tyres in the beginning of the season and very good in all conditions, wet conditions, and then you get another supply later in the season, and it has happened to us actually with our team. Mid-season we got a new batch of tyres, and in the wet there were no problem at all, but the first rain you got, and sometimes you might not have rain for 2 or 3 weeks when you're racing in the summertime, and I remember we had unbelievable problems because in the wet there were no grip whatsoever.
So in the dry, perfect, and not in the wet. He's got the best seat in the house today. Luca Skintup. Sitting there driving the car, arm casually on the window there. His rider's been riding for 160k.
I don't think his heart rate would be too casual if we could get that, because he's starting to get really worried here, and still just over 10 kilometres to go, and it just depends now, Rabottini, how much he's got left, and only the rider himself knows that, as we can see Standard really pushing it on here.
There's a big split here, Sean. There's about 30 riders here, less than that, 25 riders. And it's Astana who started to really rip it up here before the last climb. Basso in this group, Scarponi in this group. Rodríguez looks like he's in the group in the red and white here, but it's Astana who took the initiative on the descent of the penultimate climb, and that looks like Petrov, who's gone back to join them as well from the break group. And Astana have decided today's the day to launch their own attack, Sean, and see if they can put their other favourites under pressure.
Well, I think there's a number of favourites who they want to put under pressure, and the main one, Basso, we know he doesn't like these conditions, the wet conditions, and we can see that there's 2 riders on the rear. Basso is there. So they haven't got rid of Basso, but of course Pozzovivo was the one who we talked about. If you push on the descent, well, you can put him under difficulty.
He's not there at all.
And he's the one who was certainly missing here.
Rigoberto Urán looks to be in there, but Sergio Enyo doesn't look as though he's there at all. This is where the race is now, Sean. This is where the race is. There's J-Rod, Rodríguez there. Just behind him is Moreno, his faithful climbing domestique. Niemiec, the Polish Lamprey climber, is in here. Is Scarponi in here then? We've seen him a little bit further up, have we? I would guess he is. Perazzi on the front of this chasing group now. What is the time gap between Rabottini and these 5 riders now? Ahmed Chiruka taking some advice from the team car. It's been very slim pickings for the Euskaltel squad here. They've had nothing of note at all. Here he is. This is Pozzovivo. As Sean was saying, he's the one that they want to put under the pressure on the descents. He doesn't like the cold, he doesn't like the wet, he doesn't like going downhill. So, he's a bit stuffed today then. It looks like, is this the group led by Astana? Well, he's done well to get back to that then.
I don't think this is
this not? I'm not quite sure yet.
It is, yes.
It is,
we can see Urán.
I can see Rigoberto Urán in there. So he
hasn't lost a lot on the descent, because we see
surprising.
Astana start to put pressure on immediately on the start of this descent, and it's been a 12-kilometre descent. Pozzovivo have done a real good job. When you see the conditions, treacherous conditions coming down here, and we know the way Pozzovivo, he hates the conditions like we're getting today, and he's done a great job there to be just getting into the tail end of the peloton.
The pace now on the front is being set by Kevin Seldrez. No problems for Ryder. Hesjedal. Scarponi sits right behind him. And the last man in this little group here is Paolo Tiralongo. Maybe it is Tiralongo that will now take up the cudgel. I don't know. We just don't know how the nominated team leader, original nominated team leader of Astana, Roman Koisinger, is really going. Seems to be losing a little bit of edge. There's Hesjedal in the pink, number 95. And also managed to keep himself in the group is Dario Cataldo. That's good going. Oh, Matteo, keep it under control, please. You're almost there. Almost there. Now you can have a go. Give it everything. On to the climb then.
And doing very well. 2:30 at the moment. I thought that gap would come down, considering we're on a flatter section, and with the chasers, if they start pulling together, that's where you could lose a lot of time. A sore Ryder being out for a long time, but he's holding off well here. 2:30. It looks like that he's still pretty good and feeling okay.
Yeah, I wonder how much these guys had been looking at each other before they started working together again. Perazzi, look, he's waiting again. I don't think he's got the energy to do much here. We may prove us wrong. Cunego keen to push on because he's got that go for that pink jersey. So at the moment, Cunego really has to motor on here, Sean, because the gap is not big enough for the pink jersey at the moment. He started the day at 2 minutes and 43 seconds down, and that push on by Astana has absolutely decimated the gap that he had.
Yes, and I think he's thinking maybe more of getting a stage victory out of this one, because when you look at the riders, it's with Chiruca, Losado, Amador, Cunego should be able to take this one, but again, Labutini still a good advantage, 2.5 minutes, and hanging in well there. It'll be interesting to see if he can keep going. We're getting to the 7 kilometres to go. He is doing a great ride. I thought he would really start to suffer in this section.
He's certainly taken his chances on the descent. We saw him fall off. He lost a few seconds on that as well, but 2:32. He's into the final climb now. There we go, 7.8 kilometres, maximum slope of 12%, but look how much steeper it is on average to the last San Pietro climb, where we saw him really his head beginning to bob up and down. 7.8% average here, but he must be lifted now, Sean. He knows he's, for want of a better phrase, he's in the home straight. He's got to dig deep for everything, and every type of emotion will be going through his body now. Yes. I can do this. No, I can't do this. I can do this. Everything.
Well, I think, yes, the adrenaline will start flowing, although he's really just very, very tired. And, he will hear as well the radios on the motorbikes. He will be getting the time checks, and he will, be aware that the Cunego group is at 2.5 minutes. And when you make the calculation, he's going to say to himself, well, I can hold this group off, because he's been doing it for a long time, and that's I think the good point. They have been working pretty well together behind, but haven't really eaten into his advantage, and if he can keep it going at this rate, he has a great chance of holding on.
Just a few seconds ebbing away from it, and Perazzi goes again. Well, you've got to hand it to him, haven't you? Doesn't matter how knackered he is, he has a go. Whether he's got the energy or not, I'm not sure. Cunego looks at him, and there's a bit of a shake of the head there. He said, well, I've got to keep going at my own pace. That's a big dig by Stefano Perazzi. Two of the smaller teams fighting for a win. Farnese Vini and Colnago now chasing them. 2 minutes and 16 seconds. Well, it's all down to what he's still in there. Hello, Didi. It's the best picture we've had of you all the way through this Giro d'Italia.
He's changed team.
Yeah. 1 minute and 20 seconds is the gap between this group here and the Damiano Cunego Chase group behind. So the advantage that he had to put the pink jersey under pressure has disappeared.
Yes, totally disappeared. And the chance for the stage victory as well. As we can see, the bunch is really eating into everybody out in front. And Pirazzi is the one who, he's starting to push on here already. He should have just waited, allowed Cunego and Turuka to just make the pace, because still over 2 minutes to close down is a big gap for him.
I'll tell you what, Stefano Pirazzi provides entertainment, doesn't he? He really does. There's Ryder Hesjedal in the pink jersey, black shorts in the middle of this group. Just behind him is Joaquim Rodríguez. She's quite a little bit bigger gear than one sprocket more than Hesjedal. Inchausti is almost definitely in this group somewhere. And they've picked up some of the other riders from down the slopes, giving it everything. He's going to be one tired boy at the end of tonight, Sean. Is Matteo Rabottini win or not?
Yes, well, he's certainly going to be sleeping well tonight. But if he can get the stage victory, well then, you don't think of that. And at the moment, he's still holding on well, because Pirazzi is, putting a big attack there. He has to ride away from Cunego. He was keeping the pace real high. Still 2:17 back to Pirazzi. So it's looking okay. It's all depend here on the bunch, I think. You can see now that Schmidt is on the front here and really setting the pace. And if you have the likes of Pozzovivo who go in the attack quite early on this climb, well, the advantage for everybody out front will come down real quickly.
These are the big favourites. Sylvester Schmidt, the super climbing domestique on the front. The pole setting the pace, that sort of weaving style that he has. Behind him, Ivan Basso in the liquid gas green, those two. Then behind him in the turquoise of Astana is Romain Kreuziger. Seems to be setting pace, or the two team leaders there, they must be considered that now together, surely. There for Astana, Kreuziger, and the smaller man behind him is Paolo Terralongo in the three-quarter length, or the leg warmers at least. Dario Cataldo for Omega Pharma is still sitting in there. There's the best young rider, Rigoberto Urán. So Sergio Enyo is still there. Terrific riding by the youngsters from Team Sky, really super commendable. Scarponi in this group, he's got Niemiec, the Polish domestique, another good climber in this group as well. You can tell Kreuziger is the taller man, but he's also got the pink shoes on. And the pink jersey of Ryder Hesjedal is in there as well. 2:15, the gap is not coming down at all, Sean. I think he might go all the way.
Looking good back to the Pirazzi group. Cunego, they're not eating into the advantage at all here, and it's now the peloton and this pace being set by Sylvester Schmidt. This is the problem we can see there, that they're really going for it. And if there's other riders who can take it up after Schmidt, because he can go on for a long time, and if he keeps doing that for 2 or 3 kilometres, I think we'll see this gap coming down real quickly. And Rabottini is really digging in and holding off magnificently well.
He is holding off magnificently well. Of course, it's never over till it's over. It's our job, of course, to provide entertainment as well as information, or whatever we could say. He's holding off is fantastic. Will they get their stage win? But he could just fall to pieces in the last kilometre or the last 2 kilometres. You just never ever know. It's one of the beauties of this sport. 2:18 is the gap at the moment, though. This is the riders chasing up the hill after them, and we've hardly mentioned Alberto Losada at all for Katusha there in the red and white, but he's hanging in real well, Sean, and I don't know if he's got anything left in the legs, but everybody else has been doing much of the work. He could spring out from these couple of riders and try and put some distance into it.
Well, it would be the good tactic. If you're feeling good, just play the waiting game, because we can see Cunego is really pushing it on. Ciruca also wants to push on. Pirazzi is the one for me. He could have waited for a number of kilometres and then had to go. Or was he panicking with the bunch coming up behind? That is also the possibility. Maybe his team director, he was getting orders to start going immediately. And, we know Pirazzi, he can climb real well for a long number of kilometres. We've seen him do that in this Giro already, where he attacked, I think, about 7 or 8 kilometres from the finish and held off the bunch for a long, long time. But the one you mentioned, Lozado, he's just sitting there, and it will be interesting to see if he is just struggling to stay there, or is he just playing the waiting game and going the attack in the final number of kilometres.
It is also Pirazzi's style, though, isn't it? He does attack very early on. I think one day he might learn to leave it for a bit. 2 minutes and 9 seconds. The gap is coming down a little bit here, Sean, and how much has Rabottini still got left? He's ridden all day. He's been out by himself. He got rid of Guillaume Bonnefond. He's got over every single climb, pretty much by himself. And he's also fallen off in the last 10 kilometres here. Still not going great guns here, though, Sean. There's an even pace being set on the front, but there's a lot of watching going around. You can see Scarponi is this sort of guy. He just lifts his head very slightly. You can see he's looking around, see what the other favourites are doing. There he was just casting a glance towards Rodríguez. Keeps a weather eye on everybody, doesn't he? Some riders focus on themselves. Scarponi always looks around, see what everybody's doing.
Yes, and I think in the bunch as well, they know they have it under control, and for the moment the big favourites, there's nothing to worry about out front, because Cunego is back into a position with the time advantage. Is not any danger. They're going to take a lot of that time out of him. He's not going to take a number of minutes. Also, they have taken back some of the other riders. Bruchigin, who was up there, Pinotti, who was up there also, so they are back in the main bunch. So there's not any great urgency in the main bunch for the moment, just with Sylvester Smith setting the pace, as we see Amador getting into difficulty. I'm not surprised, because being out there all day yesterday and again today in those conditions. But who will go in the attack out of the big bunch? Will some of the better climbers have a go here? And that will be the
Losada.
Yes, Losada's going to push on here.
Well, we did say he's the danger man, because he's done very little. He's pushing on the pace here. 2 minutes and 10 seconds for Rabottini. And with the modern communications and most teams having the television in their car, the Katusha team car may well have been waiting. They may well have even seen that shot that Rabottini that we just saw, where he looks very, very tired indeed, and said, right, now's the time. Who knows? 4 kilometres to go. So it's a sort of conspiracy of all sorts of things that come together to make a rider attack. Under 1 minute now is the gap between Damiano Cunego and the main bunch of favourites, Sean. So the attempt to get away has not happened, and Losada goes around the outside of Pirazzi. He'll try and stay with him, but will he be able to, is the question.
I don't think Pirazzi is good, because if he was in good condition, he would just ride much stronger on this climb. And we can see Lozado, he's riding away. Ciruca fighting to stay on, but Cunego getting into difficulty. He's lost 10-15 metres there, and it looks like that he is pretty much paying for the effort he's put in.
Four kilometres remain on this climb. Final climb of the day up to Piani dei Resinelli. And Losada, who wants to push on. Cunego has gone out of that group now, Sean. He did a lot of work earlier, but he's no longer there. It's Losada, Ciruca and Pirazzi. The ripped shorts of Farnese Vini's Matteo Rabottini, who took the stage by the scruff of its neck today and said, I'm going to ride all day. He's gone again. Where on earth does he get this energy from? He sort of summons all his forces again, Sean, and just goes, right, I'm off. Why does he get it from?
And where does he get the ideas from? Because we see Losada was making a good pace here, still 1:42 down. They have a lot of time to make up here on our leader on the road, Rabottini, just inside 4 kilometres. And Losada is the first time he starts to do something. Leave him right there for a number of kilometres. Leave him right for a kilometre or a kilometre and a half, and then try and attack and see can you get across to Rabottini out in front. But it's amazing this man, the way he rides Pirazzi. I don't know what his tactic is, because it's certainly not the way to do it for the moment.
Certainly provides airtime for the team, though, and entertainment for the viewer. But that's not always how you win races, and it's not how you win stages, and he hasn't won a stage so far doing it. It's very entertaining, though. 1:44 now is the gap, and Losada's ridden back up to him again. He'll do it again. If he's got anything in the legs, he'll have another go. But Losada, as we've said, as Sean was saying, has done absolutely nothing so far. And as he ups the tempo, Pirazzi could have just sat there. 3.5 kilometres to go. 1:33. The gap is coming down quite quickly under Losada's pressure. This is going to be nip and tuck for this man. I mean, he deserves it. He really does deserve it. As do the team, especially with the disappointment they've had with the performance of their team leader, Filippo Pozzato, in this year's Giro d'Italia. 2 minutes and 40 seconds is the gap back to the pink jersey, and Losada is now creeping up close to the wheel of Rabottini. The gap has come down 20 seconds in less than half a kilometre here, Sean.
Yes, it's coming down quickly, and I'm not surprised, because Rabottini is in that steep section where you get to about 7.5 kilometres from the finish, and then it goes on for a long time. So I think he's getting through that section, and he is suffering. But Losada is, biting in big time to the advantage of our leader on the road.
Here's another man suffering. Earpiece out, nothing to be gained from hearing anything from the team car now. You've just got to ride. And this is a terrible position for him to be in, Sean, because he's less than a minute up on the peloton. He's committed himself all day. Pretty much all day, half the stage. He's going to gain nothing and use up loads of energy.
Yes, it's a big effort for very little gain, and it's surprising that he wasn't able to match the guys who were out in front. Even with Losada not doing a lot of work, but Chiruka, of course, he's been doing the same. Pirazzi hasn't been doing a lot either, but Cunego in big shape. I think he would be able to be up here with the 3 chasers and getting into difficulty there. It tells me that the shape is not that good, and he knows himself, and that's the reason he went in the attack today, that he hasn't got the shape to stay with the big favourites when they really start racing up the final climb of the day.
50 seconds is the gap, and they're almost, won't be that long before they can sight him through the cars just up ahead. And it's 3 kilometres to go for the leader on the road, Matteo Rabottini. Well, Damiano Cunego may have won the Tour of Lombardy 3 times in this area. He knows how tough the climbs are here, and whether that's good for him or bad for him at the moment. This is the group of the pink jersey of Ryder Hesjedal, just ahead behind Paolo Terralongo and Roman Kreuziger. They're doing absolutely nothing at the moment. Sean, is anybody going to spring out here, or is Schmidt just going to keep the pace high enough on the front that nobody can do anything?
Well, the question is, how long will Schmidt keep going at this rate? He's setting a real strong pace, and there's not many riders thinking of attacking, and that is the tactic of Liquigas and for Basso. Keep the pace real high, then the other ones will not, think of attacking, because it's just that little bit too fast. And it's really the big climbers, the good climbers, like a Pozzovivo, for example. But I don't know at Pozzovivo today, the cold conditions, I don't think he liked that too much, so he might not be in the best of a day, and we'll have to see in the final kilometres, is he capable of doing something, or is there anybody capable of doing something? It will also depend on how long Sylvester Schmidt can keep this pace going for.
Cunego's fighting on 3 kilometres for that man there, Damiano Cunego. It's about 40 seconds now, the gap that he has over the peloton. 1:29. With just under 2.5 kilometers to go. Rabottini is hanging in there. He's really, really hanging in there. This must be a world of pain by now. He began the day in a break with Guillaume Bonnefond that went after about a quarter of today's race distance at about 35 kilometers. He went through the spread point at Lecco first, along with Guillaume Bonnefond, and Mark Cavendish took the last points there. Good on him. And then he simply rode away from Guillaume Bonnefond. Bonnefond falling back to the peloton fairly quickly. He went over the first category, Valcava climb, and down the other side up the third category, Di Bura, and then the San Pietro. But now it's splitting up behind as well, as Alberto Losada continues piling on the pressure, and Pirazzi being shed, as is Ahmet Cheruka. Schmidt drops off the front of the peloton. It's down to Basso to set the pace now, and so surely somebody will attack out of the front here. We've seen this the last time Ivan Basso got on the front and set a pace. Everybody matched him, and then they started attacking him. Can they do it again? Meanwhile, Alberto Losada has ridden away from his two breakaway companions, Stefano Pirazzi and Ahmet Cheruka, and he's heading off up the hill after Matteo Rabottini, who's been out all day. They're just under 2 kilometers to go. Has Losada left it a little bit too late, Sean? It can still take it back.
Yes, it's still possible to take it back, but again, it looks like that Rabottini is looking okay. A minute as he gets into this final 2 kilometers is going to be tight, and Losada has put in a big effort. Can he keep it going at this rate? Because sometimes, you know, you can put in a burst for a kilometer and a half, but to keep it going, can he do that? And I think we will see in the next kilometer, we will see if Rabottini can hold on.
Ivan Basso was pacing. Here we go. Who's going to come up to the outside of this group? Sergio Enyo moves on the inside. He's followed by the pink jersey of Ryder Hesjedal. Cheruka has passed Stefano Pirazzi, and this is Scarponi, who knew somebody would go for it. Michele Scarponi winds that big gear up and puts the pressure on. Ivan Basso able to almost match the pace. Is he? Gets on the gas again, goes Scarponi. Can he pull out a gap here? Oh, this is going to be a big fight behind. Rodríguez in the red of Katusha goes around the outside of Ivan Basso. Damiano Cunego stuck in a position where he can't help Michele Scarponi at this point. And Scarponi seems to have shed Kreuziger there as well, Sean.
Yes, there is gaps appearing there. We can see Scarponi just pulling out 2-3 bike lengths on Basso, but we know Basso, as we can see here, he just comes back slowly. Rodríguez getting back into the wheel of Scarponi, and Uran.
Nope. Sergio Enyo. Sergio Enyo. Uran is in the white jersey of best young rider, and that is the young Sergio Enyo.
Apologies.
That's a fantastic ride. That's brilliant. He's been riding well all the way through the spring. He was good in the Ardennes Classics, and look, he's climbing with the very, very best here, Sean. That's a brilliant ride.
Yes, well, he's climbing real well, because to match this effort, and when Scarponi puts in the attack, we can see the damage is done, and Kreuziger has lost contact there. Little gaps appearing if Scarponi can keep it going, and sometimes when he's on a good day, he can just put in a real strong pace, and when you lose 10-15 meters, just so difficult to get back here, and everybody just struggling. The big favourites, we can see that there's quite a gap here back to the chasers behind Basso.
Big effort by Joaquim Rodríguez to pull away, and Sergio Enyo is now pushing on, see if he can get onto the wheel of Rodríguez. Will that break him? That's the question. Look at Rodríguez. Scarponi trying to fight back. Enyo sticks on his wheel, and Basso suffering a little bit. He's got about a bike and a half length between young Sergio, and gets back on again, Sean, but Rodríguez seems to be pulling away here. And the big question is, how far back is Ryder Hesjedal?
Last kilometre for Abbottini. It'll be interesting to see where Losada is, because it looks like that he has enough to hold on here.
Under the kilometre to go banner goes Matteo Rabottini, and Alberto Losada is fighting to try and get his wheel. Under he goes. Meanwhile, chasing is Stefano Pirazzi, as Rodríguez has gone past Pirazzi and Cheruca. So the peloton almost upon these breakaway riders, and Pirazzi looking around in panic because he knows there's other riders coming up. Scarponi, Basso, Sergio Enio. Enio started the day at 1:39 down on Hesjedal. Basso at 1:07. Scarponi at 1:20. And Joaquim Rodríguez only 9 seconds back. He's riding up now towards the pink jersey, and Alberto Losada, well, he's there and able to pace him as well if he's got anything left. I think it's just two different tactics playing out here, Sean.
Well, I think the tactic was for Losada to try and have a go for the stage,
yep.
But Joaquim Rodríguez, very impressive here the way he's finishing, and is our leader who's been out so long going to hold on, because Rodríguez is coming up real fast.
500 metres to go for Rabottini, and Joaquim Rodríguez has passed Alberto Losada and he's almost in sight of Rabottini. Matteo must dig in now, he's got to give it now. He's not going to hang on.
No,
Joaquim Rodríguez is going to come and take the stage. Oh, that is cruel. 400 metres to go. And Rodríguez is going to go past him. Oh, no. Oh, that's terrible for Matteo Rabottini. Watch his shoulders collapse. Ah, come on. Dig in. If he could just hang in there until they get to the line, maybe Rodríguez will let him have it. Who knows? He's got to have a go for it. Rodríguez is going to charge. Matteo Rabottini hanging in there as much as he can. Can he keep within a bike length? 200 metres to go. Rabottini's not giving up on this one, and I don't blame him. If he's got anything left whatsoever, he's got to hang in there. This is a magnificent effort by Rabottini. Rodríguez has pulled away. Go on, man. Go on. He's going to go past him. Surely he's going to go past him on the inside. Oh, that's brilliant. Come on. He's going to take the win. Matteo Rabottini takes it. That was extraordinary. Joaquim Rodríguez takes second place, but in the process he gets the pink jersey back. Alberto Losada is going to get third. Scarponi, Enio and Basso there. And where is the pink jersey of Ryder Hesjedal? This is payback for Hesjedal. They saw him do it yesterday and they're doing it to him today. There's no love lost when you're fighting for the pink jersey in the Giro d'Italia. Pirazzi comes over. This time it's Kreuziger, Gadre, Neve, Cheruca, and here's the pink jersey of Hesjedal with Paolo Tiralongo on his wheel. No, is it Cataldo? Cataldo on the wheel. And Hesjedal has going to have to give that jersey away again. It's an absolutely ding-dong battle for the Giro, Sean. Everybody's had it.
Well, what a final, and the last number of kilometres, as we see Tiralongo coming over, 55 seconds roughly down, and it just blew to pieces, and not surprising after such a difficult day. I think everybody was just, fighting to get to the line, and Scarponi, of course, really caused the problems there when he threw in the attack, and some of the favourites losing a bit of time, but nothing majorly. Scarponi, Basso 24 seconds down, and we could see the rest of the big favourites cruising at roughly about 28, so not losing anything major.
Rigoberto Urán coming over to finish best young rider. He will give that to his teammate Sergio Enio today. That was a terrific ride by Sergio Enio. We shouldn't take anything away from that. What a fantastic bunch of rides today. Rabottini, well, he saw Joaquim. Look at it. Rigoberto Urán.
Complimenti a te, Francesco.
Magnificent ride today by Farnese Vini. They finally, oh look, 2 minutes and 5 seconds down for Pozzovivo on Joaquim Rodríguez. Losing time today, Pozzovivo. Losing big time. And Farnese Vini, I'm not surprised they're happy. That was a brilliant finish, Sean. I didn't think he was going to get it. I think just about everybody out there, and there's a lot of Rodriguez fans, but I don't think many people would have not been cheering for Matteo Rabottini then. And he took him on the inside. Brilliant.
Amazing the way he was able to just, up his pace again. I thought it was just over when we could see Rodriguez coming, but I think he had knocked off a little bit. Rodriguez made a huge effort to get across him and paid for that effort in the final 100 metres, but certainly Rabottini deserves that victory after the ride he put in there today.
Yeah, absolutely. And there was no giving that one away. Rodriguez went for that. Let's have a look here. Look, he comes back at him. He goes up the inside. Rodriguez gets out the saddle and he just powers his way through. He gives it everything he possibly can. Takes the perfect line. And Rodriguez then thinks, oh, that's it. He's got it. That was a great effort. Pozzovivo lost 2 minutes and 5 seconds on Rodriguez today. And that was a bad result from almost off the bike. He didn't even get time to get off the bike before he's mobbed. That's Rabottini, brilliant stuff. That's a lot of time to lose to some of the big favourites today, Sean. And Kreuziger as well. Good today. Tirolongo suffering.
Yes, Tirolongo is suffering also a bit, but yes, Pozzovivo losing around a minute 30 on the other big favourites, Scarponi, Basso, Kreuziger. Of course, 2 minutes plus to Rodriguez, and I don't think maybe Rodriguez is the biggest problem there in the general classification. Pozzovivo, Kreuziger, Scarponi, Basso, I think they're the men he will be looking at and try to limit his losses on those guys.
25 seconds back to Scarponi and Basso from Joaquim Rodríguez. Stefano Parazzi misses out again on a win. 29 to Kreuziger. Gadre at 29. He rode well in the end. Nieve at 36. Ryder Hesjedal 39. Cataldo still riding well. And Chasty at 44. Johan Chop. Now, we've not talked much about Johan Chop, the Swiss rider, but he is not far down on the GC either. He started the day today at 2 minutes and 41 seconds, having a fantastic Giro d'Italia, Johan Chop. Here we go. Overall standings. Joaquim Rodríguez now has 30 seconds on Ryder Hesjedal, 1:22 on Basso, 1:26 on Tirolongo, and just a single second more on Kreuziger. Scarponi at 1:36, and then in Chasty, right of the day though, that man there, Matteo Rabottini. What a fantastic stage. 45.5 kilometres to go. It's stage 16 here in the Giro d'Italia. It's the last chance for a breakaway, and we've got a 10-man one up the road. It would seem the appropriate moment, Sean, to start looking at the characteristics of each rider in the breakaway, because they have a gap of 11 minutes and 21 seconds. There's 45 kilometres to go. It's highly unlikely that this net will now get tracked down, and somebody from that breakaway will end up a winner today.
Yes, has to be. With the 45k's to go, as you say, over 11 minutes. And we can see here on the front of the bunch the Team Katusha of Joaquim Rodríguez, race leader. They're just rolling along and not concerned at all. And there's no reason to be, because everybody in this breakaway is totally out of general classification, and it's not a case where there's somebody going to move up into the top 4 or 5, or if that was the case as well. As we get into the final week, sometimes the riders who are in the top 6 or maybe 8 in the general classification, the teams start to control it and they don't allow a breakaway to go too far out, but that's not the case today, because with what we've got to do in this Giro, so many difficult days to come, they're not thinking about that at all at the moment, and only Katusha is going to ride. And it will be interesting to see who's good in this breakaway, because they're going to be out here for a long time as well, and the difficult race we've had already, there's surely some of the riders got into the breakaway, but in the end, the final 20-30 kilometres, they will start to go downhill. Fatigue will start to be a part of it as well, and that is a very difficult question to the answer to that is very difficult. The riders themselves as well, some of them feel good at the start. You can feel so good in the first 60-80 kilometres, but as you get into the stage, you can start going down in energy, start feeling it in the final part of the stage. So it will be an interesting final, certainly.
What's also interesting, if you look down on the peloton here, you'll see the riders back from Katusha are sitting there having a chat. It's interesting how these separate out into nations sometimes. Sergio Enya, for example, they're just drifting back and speaking to one of either the Colombians or the Venezuelans from Androni, and just gives a little bit of a chance to be sociable in your own mother tongue and relax just a little bit. They have to be a bit too careful. They're a bit careful that they don't be 2 laps and sort of run into the back of somebody or touch a wheel and so forth. But just shows that the pace is not on at all, and they've got the opportunity to just relax just a little bit. Use this as a sort of half a day rest, so to speak. Well, in the breakaway, Androni's Demarchi was very good 3 days ago, and was very, very strong, riding up to Andre Amador. But I wonder if that's taken it out of the leg, Sean. That's one for him. But he's clearly an aggressive rider.
Yes.
He'll definitely have a go today, I think.
Well, definitely aggressive, because we did see that fight he had with Amador.
Almost a physical one.
Yes, well, physically, when he got up to him, we see the look, he just glanced across at him. But the way he just got back to Amador was giving it a lot, and he just clawed his way back. He was just getting back inch by inch, really, and it took him a number of kilometres to get back to him. So he did put in a big fight to get up to Amador.
43.4 kilometres. Matthias Frank, he's pretty good on this sort of. He can climb very well. He's quite an attacking rider, so that last little climb may work for him. But Luca Mazzanti, I think, is one who might have a go, as will Izagirre. I mean, lots of guys will have a go. That some will find it more difficult than others. For example, Nicolas May, Steph Clement, maybe. But Mazzanti, the tail feathers are up. We've seen him in a break before, can climb reasonably quickly. Izagirre too is another danger man in that last little climb.
Yes, I think if you look at the last climb, and if it comes to the last climb together with 10 men, well, Izagirre is definitely a one who would be dangerous. I think Frank as well, Matthias Frank, he's quite a strong rider, powerful. This climb will suit somebody like that, but again, how they're feeling, I think that's going to be very important. But I think before we get to the final climb, there will be a lot of riders making the calculation now. If we come to the 40 kilometres to go with their team director, they will be attacking certainly 15 kilometres away from that climb. So that means 20 kilometres from the finish.
Yeah.
I think they will be attacking and try and get into a group, a smaller group, maybe right away on their own, and back there between the rest, they just start looking at each other and playing about. And to get to the final climb, you need to have, that 30-40 seconds if you're out there on your own, or even with one or two other riders. So I think that will be the calculation. A lot of riders will be thinking attack a good bit out from the final climb, which is in around the 5 kilometres to go. Others will be saying, well, if they keep riding onto the final climb, I could do a lot of damage on that 2k. Izagirre probably is the one who could really do something on the 2 kilometre climb, but I doubt if we will see them riding onto the climb and the stage being decided there.
Out of the 10 men, you would expect maybe 4 or 5 to reach that final climb. As you say, Sean, they will start attacking each other a fair way up, because they've got plenty of time to mess with here. Dominic Royla, former Canadian road champion, sitting just ahead of Sandy Cassar. Man at the back having a chat with Brian Bulgak is Jussi Väikkönen, Finnish rider. And there is Mark Cavendish in the red jersey. And all credit to him, he's ridden like a proper champion and stuck it out in this race. He breed him tough in the Isle of Man. It's not been the nicest of days. The last couple of stages not been the nicest of stages for a pure sprinter, Sean, and there's a lot of other sprinters would say, well, I'm going to sort of pack my bags and go and disappear and prepare for the Tour de France. Others have. He's had a couple of bad falls, and yet he's still here. Yes,
still battling on, and he's had to battle on some of the days in this race where it's been very difficult for him. And we did see the first days when they started to go uphill the mountain climbs, he was suffering very earlier on, but got into his rhythm with some of his teammates, made made a big group of riders the bus, as we call it in cycling terms, and inside the time limit. I think most days okay. There was one day he was very close, but got through that, and battling on well, and looks to be going to go all the way in this Giro.
Yep, I think he's going to go all the way in the Giro. He's doing the water carrying duties today. There we go. How many has he got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I think, at the moment. The record, by the way, is 16, if I remember correctly. I cannot remember the Spanish rider who set it. 16 bidons being carried. And Mark is on his way. I think the Spanish rider in question was significantly bigger than Mark as well, which must help. 11:33. Yesterday was pretty foul weather on the rest day, Sean. I mean, do they go out for a ride on a day like that, or do you just not bother?
I think there'd be very few riders would go out in the conditions yesterday, because it was just really horrible weather and also pretty cold. Considering they were out the day before in it as well, you try and avoid going out another day, a second day in the wet conditions. I think the trainers, the rollers, the turbo trainer would be the one which I think the big number of riders would be using yesterday. And again today, when you have a flat enough stage, I know there was a little bit of a kick up in it after 30 kilometres, but when it's not a big mountain stage, well, it's a little bit easier to get back into it, and that is a concern as well, because people think, oh, rest day for the riders, everybody just lie down and do nothing for the day. It's not the case at all. Everybody try and get out, weather permitting, and do 2 hours, 2.5 hours. But if the weather is real bad, which it was yesterday, well, then you have to do something and just do the turbo trainer.
Yep, not much else you can do, unfortunately. Isn't that rather nice? Monasterio di Sabbioni. Okay. Still a closed convent. There's lots of those fortified monasteries and convents throughout the Tyrol region that we're in. A whole chain of them. With a gap at 11:30, Sean. We're just going to roll into the finish now, and we'll see the action. Oh, it's the Castle of Trostberg. You see it rolling in, and the action's going to come out of this group of 10 riders today. Well, we're getting to that 12-minute mark almost, as Sean was predicting. 12 or more minutes for the breakaway. 37.4 kilometres to go. So 15k or so out. These boys will start looking at each other and put a dig in. Still a way out. 37.3. What won't be very pleasing for some of them, Sean, is if one or two start to think in the next 5, 6 kilometres that they're going to ride away and push the pace on a little harder and try and break things up. And we have seen it, haven't we? Occasionally you look at these breakaways, you think, what on earth is he doing? Because they'll attack from 20, 25 kilometres out.
Yes, well, sometimes they go on the attack, and the bunches, at a distance behind, which is not too sure will the break make it or not. And when you have a situation like that, you'd be expecting the break, to be making the same calculation. The riders keep on riding and try and get us a bit closer to the finish to secure the possibility of going on to take a stage victory. But sometimes riders attack a long ways out, and that really puts the possibility of the breakaway staying out in front in danger. But here we don't have that problem as we get to the 36 kilometres. I think if they get another 6 kilometres and the 30 kilometres to go, the way the bunch is going as well, that is, I think we have to look at that. We can see they're just riding a good tempo on the front with Katusha, so you could go on the attack out of the breakaway. And now is the question how long the 10 will ride together out front before somebody will go on the attack. And
exactly, not make any friends.
Again, it's all depends how you feel. If you're feeling real strong, well then you would like it to attack a long ways out to get aggressive, because you know that the opportunities then, if you're really good, you can get a chance to go in the attack a good bit out. But if you're feeling tired, well, you're always hoping, I hope they keep on riding as long as possible, and they'll only attack at 20 kilometres, 15 kilometres from the finish. So it's different ideas and different riders depending on what way they're feeling at this moment.
Bit of yelling going on between moto pilots as one gets in the way of the other. Steve Charlworth saying Antonio Garrido, quick step, 16 beat on, but he's been trumped. Apparently, I await confirmation. We need at least 3 sources for confirmation. Fabio Sacchi in the 2006 Giro carried 18 bid on. Where did he put them all? Down the back, down the front, in the cages, in his back pockets. Ooh, that's why. Something going on. I thought there was a bit of a coming together there. No wonder there was a load of yelling. That's it. Bash it back on. Hey, look, he's taken the wing mirror off the police BMW as well. Yeah, he'll be popular. Cavanieri will really love him.
It's not only the riders who go down.
Yeah. And we're lucky they didn't go down, actually. It's just a clash of wing mirrors there, by the look of it. Seems to be an increasing number of riders, Sean, who are using lower profile rims again now. Certainly in the Giro we've seen it a lot. Maybe a slightly bigger one at the back and a slightly smaller one at the front. It does seem to be a general trend at the moment. Certainly helps in the... We've seen it a few years ago in the mountains to have a deeper section rim at the back for aerodynamics and an aluminium one on the front, a carbon one on the back, aluminium one on the front for more progressive braking. I think things have moved on a little bit. What do you reckon to that idea, Sean? There's a lot more lower profile rims this year than we've seen for a while.
Yes, well, first of all, for bike handling, you can have the higher profile on the rear and the less on the front. And for bike control, going downhill at very fast pace, it's easier to control the bike, of course, and maybe braking as well. Of course, the carbon rims on the rear and a normal rim on the front, you have maybe a bit of better braking, but it seems to be changing a lot. I'd hate to be a mechanic. There must be a lot of nightmares there, because if you have the riders using a carbon rim and an aluminium rim, when they puncture, of course, you have to be careful. You have to know exactly what wheel to give them, because the brake shoes, the brake blocks are a different compound, and that can be difficult. But it certainly seems to be, we have seen in this race that there seems to be a different profile from rear to front.
12:23, 33.9 kilometres to go. Our breakaway is De Marchi of Androni, Frank of BMC, Mazzanti of Farnese Vini, Bach of Lotto, Izagiri of Euskaltel, Mace of Omega Pharma Quickstep, Harada of Movistar, Clement of Rabobank, Boaro of Saxo Bank, and Brandl of Team NetApp. They have been allowed to go today. There is no threat whatsoever to the pink jersey. The best man in overall classification is 32 minutes and 26 seconds back from that man there, Joaquim Rodríguez, and the man in question is Harada of Movistar.
And of course, Movistar will also make good inroads in the team classification, because they went very close to losing that classification 2 days ago. Astana got very close to them, but they will take, quite a big advantage with Harada up there today, and of course nobody from Astana, so they will take quite a number of minutes in the team classification tonight.
We don't talk about the team classification very much, Sean, but it is important to the teams.
It certainly is to the teams, and as you get towards the end of the race, the final number of days, they start thinking about that, and often we see a breakaway getting away in the final 4 or 5 days of a stage race, and nobody of any danger in the general classification, and for some reason we see a team, they go on the front, and then you start looking, team classification, they haven't got anybody in there, and they are the leaders, and they start to ride after and close down a break. So in the final couple of days of a stage race, they start to look at it, and it's a classification. I think the teams that they look at as you get into the final week, they start thinking about it, and there's a little bit of a focus on that. It wouldn't be the main one, of course, but still, it's always nice to be in a situation where you get into a breakaway, have a man in there, and the break gets a big time advantage over the bunch, and you take 5 or 6 minutes in the team classification.
12.5 minutes. Jersey wearers today. Joaquim Rodríguez of the Katusha team is overall leader, with Cavendish in the red points jersey. We've seen him today. He leads that over Rodríguez, and of course he'll come pushed quite hard in the next couple of days as we get through to the mountains. He needs to make sure he gets a few more points in the bag. Rabottini has the mountains classification. Enyo, the best young rider for Team Sky. Cavendish has one more chance, Sean. He has to work his way over a lumpy stage, a nasty stage tomorrow, but then there is one more sprint stage available on Thursday.
Yes, that is definitely a stage on Thursday, and it's a perfect day for the sprinters, and I think we will see the sprinters teams controlling it, and where he could go for maximum points, go for the stage victory. Other than that, he has to see where there's maybe an intermediate sprint where there's a small amount of points available, but again, it has to be in a good location where there's not a big climb beforehand. But and as you said, I suppose for the points classification, there's a number of riders there, like Cavendish leading at 110, Joaquim Rodríguez at 84, Hesjedal at 54, Pozzovivo at 53. All those guys could take a lot of points in the mountain stages. If there's not breakaways getting away with quite a number of riders staying away to the end and taking the maximum points at the stage finish, we could see those guys who are in the general classification. They could pick up a lot and could put Mark Cavendish under pressure to hold on to the points classification.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of pressure. Good on him for finishing the Giro d'Italia, the Tour de France coming up, and of course the Olympics. We have postulated already here on our coverage of the Giro as to what will Mark do after the Giro d'Italia, if he's going right the way through to the end of this, which he clearly is now, barring any disaster. He's got one green jersey under his belt for the Tour de France. He may ride in it, go for a few stages, and then look at where he's at with preparation for the Olympics, which will be his massive goal this year. 30 kilometres to go, still no sign of attacking, Sean, from the group at the front. They're still riding together. I quite fancy Eddy Merckx to have a go today and get fairly close, if nothing else. Gianni Savio is a big fan of his. He's clearly an aggressive rider. He's a very hard worker, and Savio giving him a bit of advice, and even more pressure being piled on Jose Rojano if this man wins today.
Well, I think there will be pressure on Lugano no matter what the outcome of today's stage, and if they manage to get another stage victory here with Eddy Merckx, well, you know, it will be just an amazing for the team. But I don't think that will take the pressure off of Lugano, because we could hear the interview there. They seem to be pushing him big time, and I don't think between Savio and Lugano, sounding from the interview the way he's talking, I don't think they are getting on too well, and he's really, you know, pushing and not happy with Lugano's performance till now. But again, you know, we have quite a number of days here. If Lugano isn't in any condition, the terrain is for him in the next number of days.
Do you think it's fair for Savio to say that we built an entire team around him? Because let's face it, we have had riders in the breakaways from Androni right the way through this Giro d'Italia. Rubiano, for example, has been in there a couple of Jackson Rodriguez. Eddy Merckx has been in there twice. Yes, he's had men around him. He's had men to look after him. Choya, most notably Jose Serpa, there to do some work for him. But is he being a little bit disingenuous there with the way he's talking about him? Is he trying to put a bit more pressure on him? It's clearly not. They're not like a Katusha, for example. Losada's the only Katusha man we've seen in the break.
Well, I think looking at Lugano, we know the history there. He was, you know, with Savio before,
riding real well, and then he just goes on to a bigger team, does nothing, and he comes back to him and takes him into the team again. So I think there's a bit of friction going on for a number of years, and now he's not doing it, and maybe that's the things they're not seeing eye to eye, let's call it, and Savio doesn't seem to be happy with him, because you can understand the Ryder, he's not going well. When you look at the race here, I suppose conditions weren't perfect for Lugano up till now. We had the flat stages I mentioned, and then the mountain stages. Weather conditions not good, and we know Lugano doesn't like that. He doesn't like the descent, he doesn't like the cold, the wet at all, and maybe in the days to come he can rally around and do something. But I think Savio, just it sounds a little bit more than not having results and not performing in this race.
Yeah, it does a bit, doesn't it? As we've said, he's pretty good at dealing with characters, Gianni Savio being one himself. Ignatieff is the man riding on the front, big gear, small chap, and just rolling along as is his wont. He's one of the men that, if you were putting a team together just of rouleurs, you'd probably consider. Bidon in the bounce back into the peloton. They've got to be a bit careful of that. Somebody chucked the bidon away and it bounced back right into the middle of the peloton. Fabio Baldato is the director sportive in this car, chatting at the back of the peloton. Just having a chat with Johan Chop. Now, Chop's been sort of almost flying under the radar here, Sean, in the Giro d'Italia. He's had a very good Giro so far, a winner of a stage in Simone's last year in the Giro d'Italia, but very, very good indeed. He's just been plugging away. Nobody's really paid him an awful lot of attention so far because he hasn't done much up the road, but he's hanging in there with 3 minutes and 24 of a gap.
Yes, certainly hanging in there, and the terrain we have had in this race, the difficult stages in the mountains already, he's riding quite well, and he finished there at 54 seconds 2 days ago in that very difficult stage, and 54 seconds that was from Rabotini and Rodriguez, of course. So from the other big favourites he wasn't far down at all, and that is a real strong performance. And in the general classification, as you say, he's very much up there, and he's just following it, staying quiet, nobody talking about him, and the question is how long will he be able to hold on there. I think in the days to come, the bigger days, he's going to have some day where he'll get into difficulty and slide down in general classification.
Interesting to see, won't it? Here's the beat off. Look, boing, straight off the side of that sign, and watch everybody. Look, whoop, let's move around it. Very dangerous, aren't they, bidons, Sean? If they're sort of empty, even half empty, if you hit them and you hit them wrong on the side, that's it, you come down.
Yes, and we could see that the riders, there was a movement by everyone to get around the bidon when it's just coming back onto the road, and that's the danger as well. The rider behind you, when you make that sudden movement to get to avoid the bidon, somebody in your wheel can touch it, and you can take a lot of riders out. And you have to have a look where you're throwing your bidon first of all, and you just need a bit of clear space, really.
It's a bit unlucky, really. to bounce it off the side of the sign there. Sitting at the back, it looks like Ian Stannard from Team Sky, just chatting to Peter Kennock, I think. 26.5 kilometres to go. Still no sign of descent in the camp here, Sean?
No. Still working well together, our 10 leaders, and the advantage 12-26. It's surprising that they are going on so far. I thought they would maybe around the 30 kilometres get somebody, but again, we're almost 2.5 weeks into the race. I think everybody in this break is feeling it a bit, and they all want to get a little bit closer to the end to have a go. And I doubt it very, very much if we see that they go all the way to the final 5 kilometres where this hill of kicks up for about 2 Ks. I can't see them all, going for that tactic and prepared to do that.
Joaquim Rodríguez sharing a joke about the pace of the peloton, I think. Conigo and Basso. Lots of chatting going on today, and everybody seems to be fairly happy. Ivan, can you just do me a favour? Can you hand this over to Anders? Yeah, no problems. It's just very relaxed today in the peloton. 12:30 is the gap, and our racing is going to come from the top 10 men in the breakaway there. Welcome back. 25 kilometers to go coming up. Lars back. Taking a bottle from the car. And these 10 men are still working well together. Under the 25 to go, Banner. Go our breakaway men, and Katusha are just setting an even pace, an even tempo on the front. At 12 minutes and 32. We had to explain to Nicole and Nigel the other day what riding tempo was. This is also riding tempo, but it's just as a lesser tempo. Sanard and Cagnac still continuing their conversation at the back. They'll just be sitting there riding along today. It's almost like a loosening up ride, just keeping things rolling along ride, because they'll be having to put a bit of effort in tomorrow to look after Mark Cavendish, and again on Thursday, when the last of the stages that favour any sort of sprint finish at all will want to be controlled by Sky. No question about it. No other teams will let them do all the work on Thursday and just try and profit from that as much as possible, because Mark Cavendish has the points jersey, the red points leaders jersey, and will want to continue wearing that all the way through Milan. So Sky will be forced to do all the work all day. .5 kilometers to go. Yes, it's just a little bit uphill all the way for our breakaway men, or for everybody, because Di Marchi's starting to pull the old faces now. Fantastic 3 days ago, wasn't it? 3 riders who knew how to express things with body language. Di Marchi, Amador and Gianbattista. And 12.5 minutes advantage. There's no threat to the pink jersey whatsoever, and we're just awaiting, really, just waiting for somebody in that lead group to decide the dig is about to come. And that, I would suggest, Sean, is going to be on the penultimate little climb of the day, where it just kicks up just a little bit after about 144 kilometers, just outside Bressanone, and we're just past that point. I think very soon it looks like with that, where the incline just ramps up a little bit, they might just ease the pace up at the front of the breakaway and see who can be shed.
Well, we're coming to a point where it does kick up a bit for a short distance,
yeah.
And then we get on to the flatter section again with 20 kilometers to go, and for the 15 kilometers it's pretty flat from there to that final 5k. I think when we get onto that flat 15 kilometers, there will be attacks. There have to be somebody who will want to go in the attack and not just leave it all to the final 5k with the 2 kilometre uphill at the around the 4.5k to the finish. I can't see everybody waiting for this final climb, so there is sufficient amount of time there where we are with the break where we see at the moment. You know, that 15k, it's a perfect launch and pad to get into the final, kick into the final 5k.
It's a race within a race, this now, Sean. We've used the phrase a lot because it's absolutely apt. We've got the guys at the front in the breakaway. They will at some point start looking at each other and try and whittle that group down as the intermediate sprint point is being come up here at Bressanone. Katusha are controlling the pace of the peloton, Sean, but that does not mean to say that there's still not some tension. There will not be some tension within this main peloton come the last 4.5 kilometres, because anything else would be too far out. But the pink jersey of Joaquim Rodríguez is still under a little bit of threat. If somebody, all the favourites are under a little bit of threat, if somebody decides to just take a flyer and try and put some time into everybody.
Yes, we could see somebody putting in an attack, but again, I think to be going so fast, it'll be very difficult.
.53.5 kilometres remaining of today's stage, which runs to 173 kilometres in total from Limoni Salgado to Falzes. The last winner in Falzes was Damiano Cunego back in 2004, the year he won the Giro d'Italia. I bet they're pretty pleased it's not raining today, frankly. Not the nicest of weather in the world. This is looking down on Bressanoni. And this is where the sprint point came along with 23 kilometres to go. Nice area though. Wouldn't mind coming here for a bit. Feeling this is where the Pope's grandmother was born or something like that. I've heard once. Bizarre fact I heard about Bressanoni. I may be completely wrong, of course. It's the Santa Maria Astuna Cathedral. Nice cathedral courtyard as well. Time for a small can of Coke for our man from Netta, Matthias Brandl, the Austrian rider. And Steph Clement is now on station at the front here, with Luca Mazzanti rolling through. They've worked very well together, Sean. I mean, it's beautiful to watch, isn't it? For those people who are watching cycling for the first time, to watch this through and off that they're doing all the time, with the riders coming smoothly through to take up the position at the front, so they take a bit of air, take wind in their face at that point and at the front of the line, and again here and at the front of the line, and the next rider comes through and they can just not necessarily ease off the speed, but ease off the pressure on the pedals a bit.
Yes, well, when you take the front, of course, you're riding into the wind, and the one in second position is in your slipstream for a moment, and the drafting is, you know, a big thing in biking. And when you're out in front in a breakaway, when you have a group of 10 riders, you know, you take a turn in the front, and then you move over a bit, and the other rider just comes over you and goes in front of you. Then you're in that drafting, and you have quite a bit of time there going back until you get back to the very end again. And then you move up on the to the front again. So the bigger the group, of course, the longer the time rest you have that you're in the drafting of somebody else. If you had only 3 riders here, while your turn coming to go on the front would be coming up very quickly, and that is very tiring. And over a stage of if you're out there for 100 kilometres or 200 kilometres, it's very, very tiring if you have a smaller group. So a 10-man group is a nice group to have out in front, because your time on the front doesn't come around as quickly, and you get that little recovery time as well. It's amazing when those guys, they are really fit. You do your turn on the front, and then you get that little bit of a rest in the drafting. You can recover so quickly.
The other thing about that size of group, Sean, is that 10 is about the perfect size, isn't it? Especially when you've got one man from all the men in are from different teams.
Yes.
There's nobody wants to sit on particularly. There's nobody who's got any axe to grind as far as the general classification is concerned. Nobody with 2 or 3 members of the same team, and 10 works really well.
Yes, well, 10 works real well. It's just about the right number, and you can, it just goes well together. And as you said, if you had a team there with 2 riders, sometimes when they're with 2 riders, one of the riders wants to just have a little bit of rest on the rear, because it's kind of saying, well, we have 2 men here, so we can just use one of the men and leave him rest a little bit. But it doesn't work like that. If somebody starts to sit on the rear and not do his pull on the front, well, then it gets totally organised, and we have seen it. They start getting into discussion, and then the group they really start falling apart. And if they start doing that, well, then that's the time we see attacks coming, and it's working so well in this group, and it has been working so well and continuing on for a long time as we get to the 20 to go, and still, they're just all rolling through together. And with the advantage they have at the moment, they're not pushing it anywhere near 100% at the moment. Everybody is doing their turn, but still they're only giving it maybe 90% maximum and just getting the kilometres over with. And it's going to be interesting once who will be the first one to attack.
Indeed. Novacella is where we are at the moment. Somebody asking why are there two names for the places? Because the two languages that have been around here are Italian and German. Novacella, this is also known as Neustift, this town. There is the Novacella. Just goes to show how this area of the world was so much more advanced in its building techniques and so forth than we were, say, in the United Kingdom at this time, because this place was built in the early 1100s. It's obviously been changed and modernised as 15th and 16th century, but in general the buildings were just so much more advanced together than some of the ones that you would find further west or further north. Taking a couple hundred years to catch up, really, or 150 years to catch up. We were talking, just going back to riding through and off here, Sean. It's amazing how many people are riding sportives these days, and you will know that if you ever get caught out in one of the big sportives and you find yourself on the flat with other riders around you, this is a perfect example of how you can ride together to make your life easier. You saw it on front. It's being a bit more ragged now because a lot of the riders are looking back to their cars to get last bottles or whatever they can at this point, but this is the perfect illustration of how to save your energy, ride sociably, and ride to the finish or wherever you need to get to. Just move to the front, take your turn on the front, and then move over to the right, and then back again, or left in the case of the UK, and just drift back again. But don't go through to the front, get on the front, and accelerate. That's what the basic mistake is for people who've never ridden through and off, is they accelerate, and the thing gets faster and faster and faster. No problem with it getting faster, but they try and pull away. And the idea is just to literally roll through, put a little bit more pressure on the pedal so you're just going past them, get into the front of the line, and then just stay there until the next chap just comes through very, very gently. So it's a very subtle pedal pressure, isn't it, Sean? You don't literally go to the front and start hammering it.
No, you just roll when you're riding through, and when your turn comes to the front, you just go to the front slowly. You don't have to make a big effort and a big sudden burst to get onto the front quickly, because if you start doing that, of course, that's change of rhythm, and that will you will pay for that as you go further into an event. So just to ride steady is the way to do it, and you can see the way the guys are doing it so smoothly there. There's no sudden acceleration, and you don't see a rider taking 2 or 3 bike lengths when he goes to the front ahead of the others. It just works so well, but they're professionals and they can do it so well. But in the sportives, sometimes when you're in a group like that, it's difficult to get people to get organised and to get to ride like that. And if you haven't been riding in a group, in a club or with a group of people, it's something that takes a bit of time. If a rider is doing all his training alone, well, it doesn't happen one day. You have to start going with a group and practicing that, and it takes a number of months to get to get the feel for it and get to know how exactly to do it.
Yeah, and there's always 2 or 3 people as well who either don't get it or don't want to do it. So you're waiting for somebody to come through and they won't, or don't for some reason. So then you might have to up your pace a little bit to take up that extra slack. Just watch them when they're on the Giro here or something else, or the Tour de France. Look, Poirot moves to the right, through goes Di Marchi, he moves to the right, then comes Matej Frank. The speed is good and steady. Spread out across the road here now, Sean, as they come within they are about 20 or 22 kilometres from the finish. 20 kilometres from the finish. As our breakaways up the road. There's a bit of jostling for place now, or just a bit more intent. Katusha have done their work. And the gap is down just a little bit. 11 minutes, 56 seconds. They've lost about 25 seconds in the breakaway group. Bit of a puffing and blowing from Alessandro Spezialetti there, which is unusual. We'll be pleased with another good day. Pavel Brut there, next to Kaczynski. Two national champions together. Here we go, great example. Just watch. Demarchi goes through, moves over. Mateusz Frank does the same. There's no acceleration, there's no deceleration. It's just a very subtle change in pedal pressure, really, that allows you to go faster or slower. It's not really a big dig. Okay, that's enough of that. But it was a very good time to illustrate it, because you don't often see it that smoothly and going on for so long. When will the nerves give way? That's the big thing in the 10-man break. If you're just joining us, it's a shade under 16 kilometers to go with a 10-man breakaway away. And they've been allowed a large amount of time because none of them are any threat to the overall classification. Demarchi from Androni, BMC's Mateusz Frank, Izagirre of Euskaltel, Mazzanti of Farnese Vini, Niklas Mees of Omega Pharma Quickstep, Harada of Movistar, Back of Lotto, Steph Clement of Rabobank, Boar of Saxo Bank, and Matthias Brandl of NetApp. There is Demarchi, and there is Mateusz Frank. So now, as the names come up for you here, Lars Bak already a winner in a stage in the Giro d'Italia this year. The rest of them have had a go. Mazzanti has been, well, is in one break and had a bit of a go. And Demarchi, we know 3 days ago, had that spectacularly enthralling battle with Andre Amador and Jan Barter. In fact, Demarchi came off the worst of the three there. "15 kilometers from the finish, and our 10 men will surely soon start to look at each other, because they can keep rolling on and rolling on as long as they like, really, with 11:48 in hand over the peloton. But surely, Sean, one of them's going to think soon, or one or two of them will think soon, I feel strong today. I'll try and see how strong the others are. It doesn't work first time sometimes. Sometimes we'll put the hammer down and just start testing a few legs and see who responds. Yes, it's pretty the norm thing when you look at the situation on the road, inside the 15 kilometres, and when you have that just under 12 minutes and an advantage back to the bunch. Normally the breakaway, they do start looking, and then they start attacking each other. They're rolling through very well and at quite a good pace at the moment, and everybody is contributing. But the moment somebody starts to miss his turn to go to the front, well, then I think that's the time we will see some attacks. And there has to be some of the riders as well who will know the finish. They've been told by the directors, they'll be looking at the route manual, and it will not be the perfect run-in for them. So they will have to try a different tactic and may have to go a bit further out. And we're certainly into that section now, as we 14 kilometres to go. I'd be surprised if we don't get somebody who goes in the attack before that final 5k, where it does start to go uphill for 2k. I'd be really surprised if everybody's happy to wait till then. Surprising that they keep rolling through. Surely they're not going to wait right the way through to the end. Doesn't seem to be any movement at the moment, though. Not a particularly long stage in the grand scheme of things. We've had some lot longer ones in this year's Giro d'Italia. People starting to talk into radios. A surefire sign that they're just about thinking about teeing up something, Sean. When people start looking around and speaking to their directors in radios, it's getting close.
Yes, I think, and when you look the man who was doing it last back from the Lotto team, he's the one that I would expect to go in the attack. He's a real powerful, strong rider. When he gets out there on his own in front and give him that 10 or 15 seconds advantage, he can just go so fast and keep on going for a long distance, 15, 20 kilometers, no problem to him. And the run-in for him today, when you look at that finish, I think he will try and do something before we get into that final 5k.
Pavel Brut looking across to his left to see that there are now 2 or 3 small trains of riders here, Sean, and we saw that the peloton spread out across the road with other teams coming to the front, and now teams beginning to organise themselves, including Sky here.
Yes, and well, I'm not surprised with this final 5 kilometres and that difficult part, and but it's still relatively relaxed. There are teams, we can see teams with a number of riders together. It's just about to get to position, get their man into position when we get to the point where it goes uphill, and in case somebody want to go in the attack, you need to be in the top 15, 20 riders. That is the perfect place to be. And of course, Sky has reason to be up there, and all the other teams as well, because they all have their interests. Sky have the young jersey classement, and the other ones the general classification. Anybody is up there, they want to get into this final number of kilometres in a good position. But what a difference it is compared to in the earlier part of the race. It would have been going 10 kilometres an hour faster at least at this moment. It's amazing what 16 stages can do. Everybody's a bit more quiet, and everybody feels that a bit tiredness is a thing, and they do not go anything like in the earlier part of the race. In the first week of the race, they would be going at a much faster rate back in the peloton at this moment.
Yeah, actually that's probably just as relevant to these boys here as well. They haven't, maybe one of the reasons they keep rolling through and still working together, despite the fact that their instincts might say to them, it's nearly time, is that they're all knackered. that's the good reason, really. Just keep riding together. If they slug it out in the last 5k, so what? It's better than trying to do 25k's worth of battering each other. It's Sergio Enyo, of course, that the Sky team are looking after. Best young rider in the general classification, the best young rider in that competition, but also he's pretty well up there in the GC. 1 minute and 55 seconds. He's wearing the white jersey, so you see the Sky riders at the top of your screen. He's 1, 2, 3, 4 back there, sitting behind fellow countryman Rigoberto Urán, who seems to have just had a bad day and gone off the top of that. And it's a measure of how close this Giro d'Italia has been up until the last mountain stage, Sean, that there's a lot of riders still up in contention, and some very good riders who are sitting really well up have just slipped back very, very slightly.
Yes, there's been a bit of movement in the stage of 2 days ago. Urán, he lost a bit of time, but again, he's still in 11th position. Henyo, very impressive, and he had a real good stage 2 days ago and moved into that young jersey classification, taking it from his teammate, and a little bit of movement. Of course, Cassar was the one who slipped down a lot. He was 4th 2 days ago, but on that final climb he lost a bit and moved down to 10th. So he was the one, I think, which was the biggest fall down the general classification. Apart from that, there's a few places which changed, but nothing major within the big favourites. Nothing at all, really. And Cassar, I was expecting him, someday to pay for his efforts in that breakaway, but also I think in this race he always does. When he gets into the real difficult mountain stages, he just suffers on one occasion, if not more.
Yep, he tends to do that. This is one bad day or more, and can ride really, really well, but he's never actually been able to sustain that. That's the big secret about being a 3-week tour rider, is the ability to have consistency all the time. You've got to be excellent, of course, and super top shape, but it's consistency that counts. You have one bad day in the mountains or one bad time trial, and that's it. Game over. In they go into the tunnel. 10.5 kilometres to go for our breakaway riders. There's been no response from the peloton at all today, and we'll just see how they work in the last 10 kilometres themselves, the last 5 kilometres themselves. Herrera looking back to the car as Clement rolls through at the front. Okay, place your bets, please. Folks, who's going to be the first man in the the breakaway group to attack? I say Mazzanti. How about you?
Steph Clement.
I knew you were going to say Clement for some reason. Lots of people saying last back. I don't think so, actually. Could do, but I'm not sure. There is Steph Clement. 10 kilometres to go then with our breakaway riders. Merckx on the front, and nobody has made any moves whatsoever out of those 10. Merckx, Frank, Izagirre, Mazzanti, Bach, Herrera, Mace, Clement, Boaro and Brandel. They are ahead of the peloton by 11.5 minutes, and the winner will be coming out of the breakaway, unsurprisingly. Nobody is a threat in the overall classification. Herrera is at 32 minutes and 26 seconds. It's a fine piece of defensive architecture. We like that. Not that the boys in the peloton will have any chance to appreciate it much. They'll now be worrying about their position within the peloton. There is Sergio Agnew, riding brilliantly, holding the best young riders jersey behind teammate and countryman Rigoberto Urán, and Stannard has moved up onto his wheel. Mark Cavendish is there also doing a little bit of pace setting. Peter Climb coming through. Juan Antonio Fletcher, and at the front is Bernard Eisel for Sky here. And they're all crowded around Sergio Agnew at only 1:55. This man, I wonder if he's a rider who feels the weight of expectations, Sean. He seems to be fairly cool and collected so far.
Yes, he is, and he's getting through there. No real big focus on him. When you see the press and that, there's not a lot of talk about him, and the position he's in the general classification, he's really up there, and the longer that goes on, the better for somebody that's not usually in a position up there in a big tour, and they will like that. And I think with Sky as well, they'll try and keep it, they're hoping it will be kept low key and that he doesn't start getting too much pressure from the press, because a new guy who's not familiar with that, it can be difficult for him, and I think he's getting through so far very well. And the position he's in, it's an excellent position at the moment, and when you consider the days to come as well, these mountain stages, I think he should be able to do very well. And the interesting one, will he be able to continue performing like he has been?
Well, looking around going on. Spezialetzi looking across to Balan, and Balan back again. They'll be working for BMC, will be looking to keep Johan Chop up towards the front. And Katusha have just set an even pace today. They've not really cut down any more in terms of time from the breakaway, and clearly nothing's happening in the breakaway either at the moment, particularly. They're under the 8 kilometre to go banner, and they're still rolling through and off here. 7.7 kilometres to go. It's the last 4.6 kilometres that are more difficult, and I confess I might have expected somebody to do something a bit before now, Sean.
Yes, well, I certainly expected something in the final 20-25 kilometres. I thought we would see a lot of attacks and somebody starting it off, and when it does start at 20 kilometres to go, it just continues on then, and until you get maybe a sole rider or 2 or 3 riders get away, and this 10-man group would have been split into 2. That was my calculation, but here we are, just over 7 kilometres to go, and they're still working well together. And is it that everybody's feeling a little bit tired and they're all just waiting, but there has to be somebody in here that feels the final for them is not the perfect run in, and they will have to try and do something. But it's getting late, because 7 kilometres to go, we're getting very close to that point where it starts to kick uphill.
It does, and if they leave it for that last kick uphill, it will be riders like Izagirre, Frank, Hesjedal. They will be the ones who are going to tag Merckx. Slightly better on those slopes. The final climb today is not right at the end. It's about just over 2 kilometers in length. Starts at 4.6 kilometers out from the finish. It's got some pave in it. So
here we go.
Here. Now they're all having a look at each other. Steph Clements, Merckx. Well, seems to be a roll through again. Not quite there, but almost at attacking point. Got a little bit of pave in it, 12% maximum, only for about 150 meters though. It's about 8.5% average, but after a day in the saddle, away by yourself, and some of these riders will find it 8.5% quite hard if people like Izagirre kick hard.
Definitely, because when you consider the 16th stage, at that point the body is going to, some guys are suffering a bit more than others, and if you're not a real good climber, well, when you have guys like Izagirre and he puts in a big attack, if he's got the legs, because he could be the one who's very tired, and if the climbers are not as good as they would like to be, if they're suffering a bit, well, then it balances out a bit more. And the rollers like Beck, for example, who was a real strong rider, if he's still feeling really good, the difference is not as great between the better climbers and the rollers or the not as good climbers. So we could see this climb maybe not creating the biggest difference as we would expect it to be, because 16 days under the belt, it can change a lot of things for different riders.
It can. Somebody was asking about what are Green Edge doing at the moment. Well, they really came here with Matt Goss's chances for stage victories in mind and the points jersey, and really there's not much in the way of GC contention for them here. Why most of them are rolling around at the back. The line is spread out a little bit here. They're still rolling through it off. It's going to go right the way through to that last hill. Sure, we were completely wrong. Wow, but look, some riders not taking up station. The last back slipping into the wheel, not going through there. Clearly has another tilt in mind, I would think, Sean.
Yes, well, I think this little change there in the last 2 kilometres, maybe we could see, as you said, some riders not following through and just slipping in there and not taking their turn on the front. And depending on what way you want this one to go, if you wanted to start attacking, well, that's the way to do it. Start missing turns, and then everybody else start looking about. And we can see here,
they're looking about.
There's a little bit more looking about here, and it's not anything as it was some time ago where they were rolling through so smoothly. It's not happening at this moment.
Under the 5 kilometre to go, banner, and 10 men from 10 different teams represented in the breakaway that stayed away. It went out and it stuck. They've let it go back in the peloton. Katusha thought, nobody a threat in there. Herrera from Movistar with a big M on his back there. The best placed man in GC at 32.5 minutes down. And there is Herrera. We mentioned he's one of the riders who could go. Herrera is the first. Frank goes second. Clement goes after them. Now he's pushing on this hill. There's a little bit of cobble in here somewhere. Who is having trouble? Lars Bak is going to have to dig in here because he doesn't like this sort of stuff. Frank is very good for this thing. Mazzanti in the wheel. Izagirre. Mazzanti in the yellow, looking back. Here's the cobblestones. And Merckx is the man right at the back at the moment. We did wonder if he's still got some legs from the other day. I think he might just be just plugging his way over, and let's see how he gets there. Herrera looks over his shoulder. Izagirre is odds-on favourite with the bookies to win today, by the way. And away he goes. Another bit of it upping in pace. And Matthias Frank, the Swiss rider who was riding so well in Romandy, responds to him. Over the steepest part of the climb here very shortly. And Mathias Bruyneel seems to be suffering in the back here. They've got a little bit of a gap, Sean, but nobody's had a massive gap at the moment. Izagirre's forcing the pace on, but nobody's managed to make the big break yet.
No, nobody, and
there goes to another go from Frank. That looks a bit more purposeful.
Yes, and he was active there on the attacks that were going. He was starting to follow when Izagirre went. He just went to the wheel immediately, and he seems to be in good shape. But again, we haven't got a real big attack here, and we can see everybody is just trying to cling on there, but gaps starting appearing, and we still have, just under 4 kilometers to go, so there's quite a bit of this uphill, although not the most difficult part, but it still goes up until almost 2.5 kilometers, a little bit inside the 2.5 kilometer to go, Mark.
Good riding by Demarchi. Look, he's just realised he was a bit too far back for comfort, and he's ridden up to the wheel almost of Mathias Frank. Herrada is in there as well. Izagirre noticed, really feeling that people are coming up towards him. And Mathias Frank looks across to see Demarchi responding, goes on the wheel. Izagirre would be naturally, if you're on paper, would be the better climber of most of them in here. Mathias Frank would be second on paper, and then probably Herrada. This is a great ride by Demarchi. He is a right battler, isn't he? Isn't he just? He likes a scrap. And he's getting onto the wheel of Izagirre. Got about another kilometre or so of this drag to go, Sean.
Yes, and Demarchi, he always looks to be just on the limit when you see his face there, and he's also his style. He looks like he's just giving it everything, but still he can go for a long time like that. We see him in the number of days ago. He seemed to be on the final climb, all the climb in that position, but he's riding real well, and I thought he might be the one who would have a lot of difficulty on this climb, but responding quite well for the moment.
Yes, as it was evening out just a little bit, Demarchi avoids the broken tarmac here. He's losing a little bit of ground to Izagirre. It's still going uphill. No real panic from Herrada and Mathias Frank behind. They know they've got about 800 meters or so of this still to go. He could just expend all his energies here, Demarchi, and I think he's realized that he's going to have to team up with some others, Sean, if they're going to bring back Izagirre.
Yes, I think he's starting to pay, and seem to be just suffering big time at the moment. And will he have enough now just to get in the wheel of the rest? We will see as the two riders come by. It looks like that he's going to make it here and try, and maybe that was a tactic as well. He knew that on his own, Izagirre, that 30 metres, maybe 40 metres closed down, that wasn't going to be able, and we can see him here still has look behind, so that tells he's not totally out of it at the moment.
No, I think he's exactly right, Sean. I think he realised that he'd given it a lot, starting to go deep into the red to try and chase Izagirre. He was a better climber, and thinking, right, no, I'm not going to be able to have any success this way. What I am concerned about is just getting a bit more energy back, getting into the wheel of these two, just taking their pace for a little bit. And I think he's a bit concerned about who else might come back, because there's some other good, strong riders behind if they make it across to the group. Clement, for example, on the flat. I don't think he'd want Clement or Nicolas Mace to come back to him. So it's a big balance at the moment, as Mathias Frank is now looking behind as well. These three will have to work together to maintain a gap over those behind and not lose too much on the man in front. Herrada, they're just letting him do the work, Sean.
Yes, and Herrada was setting a real strong pace here. I think he's probably holding Izagirre at the distance he's got, and when you have a rider that's capable of doing that, they will just follow in the slipstream of the rider and stay there. But if he slows down and pulls over, well, then they will have to, because Izagirre will just pull out an advantage. So they're probably making the calculation where he is at the moment. That's possible in the final 2 kilometres. We can pull that in when it does level off a bit in the final 2k.
It's almost there. Not much climbing left on this particular section. But Izagirre is going strong. He's got quite an advantage over these three men, and they've let Herrada do all the work. They keep looking over their shoulders. They're worried about the time gap, and I wouldn't be surprised now if we don't see them working through and off a little bit. Herrada is quite happy to shout backwards, come on guys, I've tried to peg Izagirre, now we've all got to work together. Oh, look at this. Back in the peloton, it's Liquigas once again, who have taken up the pacemaking here, and they know that they've got this hill coming up as well, Sean, and they're determined to get to it with speed and not let anybody do that attacking.
Yes, get their leaders into it, and of course Liquigas, it's such a familiar sight. Every time there's a climb coming up, they seem to be doing that since the beginning of this race, and they're about doing it again there. And Basso, we can see very much to the front, and all the general classification men are going to be the same situation, all up in the top 20-25 of the peloton to get onto this climb. Just a little bit of a concern that if there's a problem. We did see a number of days ago when Schleck had a problem with a crash, and that's in their minds as well.
Matthias Frank, De Marchi urging him to go through and do his bit, and he's just shaking his head saying, I can't do it. So De Marchi went on to the wheel of Herrada. Frank tried to respond, didn't get it. He's pushing the 53, 15, 16 there? 15. 14 seconds is his gap over the chasing group. That's a fairly respectable gear to be pushing out at this stage of a race, Sean.
Yes, it is, and it's levelled out a lot here in this final 2 kilometres, but still it's going very, very slightly uphill, and as you say, on the 15-14 sprocket, the advantage 14 seconds, it is a good one. And as we go to the final kilometre, if the chasers do not really get together here and start working well, it looks like Izagirre could hold off for a stage victory.
Izagirre from Euskaltel is going to rescue their Giro d'Italia by the look of it, because with 800 metres to go, he has about a 14-second gap, and coming up behind him is De Marchi and Herrada. Coming up behind them very quickly is Stef Clement. 700 metres to go for Izagirre. Herrada and De Marchi. Is De Marchi going to get one place better than he got a few days ago? They're not going to catch Izagirre now. He rode really strong on the final climb. And Stef Clement, with Matthias Frank in the wheel, is trying to get up to the men in front of him. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't close that gap by the time they finish. De Marchi is done. He's absolutely spent, and Herrada is pretty much gone as well. It might, second and third might well change as Izagirre drives in towards the finish line here out of Falzes. And this has made Euskaltel's Giro d'Italia, Sean. They finally got a win in the bag, and it came from a breakaway, and convincingly taken too.
Yes, a great stage victory, and a great win for the team, as we can see here, the sprint for second place, and it's De Marchi who is leading out here. 3 bike lengths, 4 bike lengths. So he's taken second place, and Stef Clements takes third.
Yep, ruining the opportunity missed was De Marchi as he came over the line. Manuel Barro beats Matthias Brandl home, and still 2 men behind. The gap was absolutely huge, so we expect a long wait for the peloton. Nicolas Mace and Lars Bach, the last man, or Mazzanti, the last man over the line. Luca Mazzanti of Farnese Vini. Well, now Thomas de Gendt at the front of the main peloton, followed by the sky blue of Astana's Paolo Tiralongo and Roman Koisiger. And Tiralongo, also Rigoberto Oran, just setting some sort of pace here at the front as well, protecting the rights of their man Sergio Enyo. Well, what is de Gendt at, Sean? Just sitting there at the front.
Well, I think the legs,
he feels like it.
The legs are so good. He's just riding on the front, and we've seen him in this race. He's just got unbelievable condition, because in the big mountain stages he's very much up there, but again, doing this, he's not doing anything for the team. He's not going to serve anything for himself, and but maybe he likes just to be on the front and set the pace, and that way they're not going to be as sudden attacks. Possibly he doesn't like these sudden attacks, and by doing that, you put that out of the mind of everybody else.
Certainly helping other people. Just himself. Van der Velde on the right hand side in the sky blue with the black band of Garmin on it. Blue helmet, looking after his team leader, Ryder Hesjedal. Well, still a lot of splits coming in, even a small climb here, Sean. 16 stages, as you say, is taking a lot out of some people's legs.
Yes, and I think we see with the break we have 10 riders as well. They all came over the line almost individually.
Yep.
And that little bit of a 2 kilometre kick up has really put the riders under difficulty. And they did not really attack it big time. They rode up at a strong pace, and it just blew that 10-man breakaway apart, and that just shows a lot of tired legs in this Giro.
Van der Velde sets pace at the front. Valerio Agnoli moves through to do his bit, then Eros Capecchi. Agnoli for Liquigas on the far left-hand side of your screen. Shoots a glance across at Van der Velde, and Hesjedal sitting at the front of the bunch, which is only about 25 riders now. All the big favourites in that 25, all the rest of them just deciding it's enough to do their own thing here. 3 kilometres to go, that's absolutely fine. That's a bit bigger than I thought, maybe 35 riders. Liquigas nearest to the camera in the lime green, with Scarponi and Koeniger of Lamprey just behind them. Hesjedal looks down at de Gendt to see where they are. Just one man to protect him has Joaquim Rodríguez. And is Angel Vicchioso in the centre there in the red. De Gendt still sets the pace with Agnoli next to him. Agnoli keeps looking across at de Gendt going, what are you doing here? And by now all the orange of Euskaltel will know that they have a victory in the bag here. They're just riding up at a pace, Sean, so that nobody attacks and nobody takes any more time here.
Yes, I think the big rush is already over. We did see before they got onto the climb it was going at a very fast rate, and that's always just to keep their leaders in a good position, and the riders that want to be in the front of the bunch, they just push it a bit faster on the front, and automatically the pace goes up. But when you get onto the climb, then as it is here now, we can see that just setting a pace with Garmin, Barracuda on the front, and all the favourites very much in the top 20 riders here.
If you have the legs, Sean, if you feel like you've got any energy left, is it a good time for a rider, say like a Cassar, to just think, right, I'm going to really nail it for the last kilometre and a bit and see if I can get a few more seconds?
I doubt if Cassar will try anything, because
that was just an example.
Yes,
I
don't think you'd be allowed. As we can see here, it's riding at a nice steady pace, but if a rider puts in an attack, there's always somebody will react, and unless you have the finish uphill all the way, that is the possibility. But with this 2 kilometres uphill and then 2 kilometres of pretty much flat, difficult to get away from the bunch, and if you get a little bit of an advantage, 10 seconds, it's so hard to hold off a bunch of about 30 riders here. I doubt if we see anybody that will even try here.
Ivan Basso calling his troops back, not wanting them to stay on the front, setting pace now. And the gap was up to 12.5 minutes, remember. Garmin, the man on the front, and with Ryder Hesjedal third in line. Vicchioso is the man second. There in the red and the white. Jean Gadret up close towards the front, riding on the left-hand side of Damiano Cunego, last winner when we came here to Falzès. The best placed man in the line there for Lampre. 1, 2, 3 back. On the left-hand side is Niemiec, the Polish climbing domestique. He's a sort of Lampre equivalent of Schmidt, but not quite as good in the hills. A bit stronger on the flat though. And Vicioso is really being forced to do this by everybody. Well, there we go, Sean. Somebody's decided to have an attack.
Perazzi.
But it's for sure. It's got to be Perazzi. Yep. There's no other person it could be. Why? Well, we'll see. 1100 meters to go then, and Stefano Perazzi comes flying out of the peloton to give it a go. You just can't stop him, can you? More to the point though, Sean, we've got a Skyman who I suspect is Uran, who's tacked onto his rear wheel there. And whether he'll gain a few more seconds back is... No, Uran's in the middle of the group there. Who is it? It's Fletcher. Juan Antonio Fletcher sitting in the wheel of Perazzi in what will amount to mere entertainment, to be fair. And the peloton not in the slightest bit bothered. Perazzi driving for the line, looking over his shoulder, and Fletcher is going to come past and just clearly feels that a place is worth it. Leaves Stefano Perazzi for dead. Looks over his shoulder, and now they're sort of winding up to keep the placings. It's Sandy Cassar, first of the bigger names, leading them home here, and Cassar over the line, followed by Hesjedal, and then De Gendt, Schlachter. It's quite a big group, actually. Some fairly big riders in there, but what is Stefano Perazzi at? Honestly, he must have been a nightmare to race. Well, not today, really, because there's nothing much going on. Maybe it's just frustration. This is where Izagirre started to make a real impression. And that's very good for Euskaltel. The stage wins are being shared around now. And that's what's required. For everybody to get something out of the Giro d'Italia is really good. A fine win for Izagirre. He was the bookie's favourite today, and once he got into the break, but still, great stuff. There'll be some sort of pressure really on teams like Hesjedal Mondial now, because they've not got a stage win so far out of this Giro d'Italia. Look at the disappointment. Oh dear, Alessandro De Marchi. He'll get it one day. Cortina de Ampazzo tomorrow, 186 kilometres for stage 17. We're on air early tomorrow, 13:30 live CET. It's 12:30 if you're in the UK. A slightly more relaxed stage today, enlivened by the gurnings of Alessandro De Marchi and the completely pointless attack of Stefano Perazzi, which always makes it entertaining here in the Giro d'Italia. Everybody all the big favourites using today's stage as an extra rest day, really. Only the very last 4 kilometres where there was a big push. Izagirre takes the win this year so far for Euskaltel, and good on him. 12th place for Stefano Perazzi there. Luca Mazzanti was the last man in over the line from the breakaway. And tomorrow, completely different again. It's a downhill run tomorrow, and I think tomorrow is going to be pretty nervous, actually, as a race. because especially if the weather turns out to be bad again tomorrow, there's some very, very tough climbs. And the final climb of the day, the Passo Giao, as we know, Sean, is a big, long, nasty first category climb. Last time we went up there, it was snow on either side of it. It might well be this time around. And a difficult long run in as well, right down to the finish.
Yes, well, it's a really difficult day tomorrow, and I think it's a day where we could see some turnabout in general classification. When you look at the climbs, there's 4 pretty major climbs to be got over in a stage of 186k.
This is the rest of the peloton just coming in. They have nothing to gain or lose by getting into the last 3 kilometres and then just easing back and taking their time to get to the finish today. Tomorrow's stage is 186 kilometres in length, and really there's no respite at all tomorrow, Sean. It's just big climbing or long descents, because they immediately go into the Trento climb, which comes after less than 9 kilometres, as Joaquim Rodríguez holds onto the pink jersey, of course, ahead of Ryder Hesjedal and Ivan Basso. No change up there, no change at all in the overall classification. Straight into a climb almost to Trento, and then down into the valley, and there's a gradual rise up to the Passo Valparaisola,